Chapter 61. Around noon the next day. Falcon Eye has started streaming. Falcon Eye had begun his stream. The title of the stream was Blue Zone Tournament Review. The stream screen displayed a still image of an eagle. Viewers began entering one by one. Open the door, Boss Falcon at.
Fali.
Knew this was coming, lol. Success with the straw. The waiting time was just about 5 minutes. During that time, roughly 8,000 viewers entered. This was around the usual number for Falcon Eye's streams. Considering the rising trend, he could potentially secure twice as many viewers. Pop.
Fali.
Hello everyone. The stream began. The Falcon image disappeared, and Falcon Eye appeared on the screen. Even though it was his first stream in a while, the communication time didn't last very long. Review. Skip the game. Let's go. Come on, just get to the review, teacher. Falcon Eye's stream was a review show. Though there were fans who watched solely because they liked him, today was an exception. In a flash, the viewer count surpassed 10,000. Most of them tuned in to see Falcon Eye's review of the fight between Lee Soo-yuk and Schneider. Ah man. Feeling a little underappreciated here, folks. Feet Wiper Falcon Eye has donated 1,000 points. Review. Of course, you guys get me. You know, right? Before starting the review in earnest, Falcon Eye checked a post that had recently heated up the community. Okay, first, let's take a look at the public opinion up to the day before yesterday. A post with over 50,000 views and 800 upvotes. It was an analysis piece comparing Lee Soo-yuk and Schneider. Play button fake Soo-yuk versus Schneider reverse button. There's no chance fake Soo-yuk wins. Even if he got the lightning, that premature guy can't beat Schneider. Ban, you're totally right. Lol premature. True facts. That lightning is kind of a premature skill, haha. Honestly, that guy just makes it a self-destruct weapon. Premature hyuk lol. Reading the post along with the viewers, Falcon Eye grinned. Here's a legendary post. It's the top comment. One comment caught his eye. Best, the only way to win is probably to go for a one-shot knockout lol. Came here for the pilgrimage. Please make me win the Players Super Bowl. It's sweet, so sweet with a 4x win. Did you regress? How did you know? Comments that implied his premature strategy had actually predicted the tournament's outcome accurately. That's right. It was a one-shot. But it wasn't premature. Click dash. Falcon Eye played the prepared video. Boom dash. With a clap of thunder, a lightning spear appeared in Lee Soo-yuk's hand. Schneider's surprised expression. See this expression? Even Schneider was taken aback. He thought he'd win for sure, but his opponent was stronger than he expected. And the next moment, Soo-yuk's provocation followed. Then let me ask you one more thing. Are you going to run away? Tap dash. Falcon Eye paused the screen at that moment and said, "It might seem underhanded, but I think provocation is a skill too. It just feels like you're sucking up to Lee Soo-yuk. It's true that I have a soft spot for Lee Soo-yuk. No, not that kind of soft spot. Anyway, I don't let personal bias affect my reviews. You guys know that, right? Agreed. Seriously, you ripped Roymon apart when you did that joint stream with him. Roymon lol, he wasn't even that bad tbh lol. Falcon Eye's streams are known for their harshness. Even promising players groomed by guilds rarely receive his approval. Streamer Roymon had the skilled player persona. A long time ago, he did a joint stream with Falcon Eye and had to endure being torn to pieces in Falcon Eye's review the next day. Please refrain from mentioning other streamers. Mods, handle those crossing the line ASAP. Anyway, back to the main topic. Quickly managing the chat, Falcon Eye returned to the review. Schneider responded to the provocation. It was a foolish move. I mean, just look at it. Doesn't it look insane? Instead of attacking, shouldn't he have thought of dodging? Even as he said this, Falcon Eye wasn't overly critical. Well, there's a certain romanticism to it. Agreed. So true. Schneider passed the romantic trial. Honestly, Schneider won this one in my book. As a man, lol. No one laughed at Schneider for his recklessness. In fact, many viewers admired Schneider more for his actions. People tend to like honest fools. But, boom! Still, romanticism doesn't feed you. The result of clashing with that is this. Click dash. The video paused, showing Schneider on the floor and Suyuk standing. The important part here is this. The spear Lee Suyuk created. Rewinding the video, Falcon Eye showed Suyuk when he first formed the spear. Doesn't it look familiar? Where? Isn't it the one Lee Suyuk used to use? No, that looks different. I watched all of Lee Suyuk's matches. Isn't that the one he used to kill the giant? Snap dash. Falcon Eye snapped his fingers and shouted at a particular chat message. Exactly, that's it. The lightning spear. As soon as the awaited answer came up, Falcon Eye presented a prepared image. Remember this? Some of you might be seeing it for the first time. This is the legendary item Lee Suyuk acquired during a trial, the lightning spear. Legendary. Excluding the few mythical items, it's practically the highest grade. A legendary grade item typically nullifies any level restrictions for use. Moreover, the lightning spear is a single-use item. Given that single-use items possess greater power compared to other items of the same grade, its strength wasn't in doubt. But look closely. Doesn't it resemble something? Does it? Looks just yellow to me. Somewhat similar. Yeah, it does. The original one used by real Suyuk didn't look like that. Among Falcon Eye's regular viewers were many who enjoyed analyzing details. Those who understood what Falcon Eye was getting at started making a fuss. No way, lol. Did he throw it once to trial? Thwack? Creating a legendary level item. The skill Suyuk wielded was lightning, and the legendary item from the lightning trial was named Lightning Spear. Both shared the same fundamental property. So theoretically, creating a lightning spear using lightning wasn't impossible. However, so this is my point. It was possible only theoretically. Of course, it's not as powerful as the spear he threw back then. This is merely an imitated copy. But that's because his stats are still lacking. If Lee Suyuk were given more time and his level and stats increased, he would eventually be capable of throwing the actual lightning spear that severed the giant's lifeline. Always Critic has donated 10 points. Is it really that amazing? A donation message appeared. The nickname suggested a critical stance towards Lee Suyuk, but the question was quite fitting for the current discussion. Is it that amazing? Falcon Eye, perplexed, rephrased the question. If you taught someone to walk and they started flying, wouldn't you think that's amazing? Asterisk. Ting-a-ling. With a pleasant bell sound, the door opened. Inside the bar, sitting alone like he had reserved the whole place, was Schneider. You're here? Take a seat. Why are you drinking alone? You're buying. Didn't you win a pricey prize? Look who's being shameless. Worried about how expensive it might be, Suyuk glanced at the menu. Thankfully, it wasn't an expensive place. Suyuk sat next to Schneider and said, I'll have the same. Cheers. The bartender, with a scruffy beard, soon brought out some cheap vodka. Only 100 points per bottle, it was the cheapest drink in the house. Why not splurge on something expensive? Suyuk asked, puzzled as to why Schneider was drinking such cheap alcohol. Schneider let out a soft chuckle and tilted the bottle to take a swig. Back then, I had many people to buy me drinks. His gaze swept across the empty seats of the bar. So I couldn't drink anything expensive. Too many mouths to feed. My wallet would have emptied if I bought for everyone. You weren't the only one paying, right? I was, back then. As Schneider looked at his reflection in the bottle, he continued in a nostalgic voice. It was because of my stubbornness that everyone challenged the Thunder Cave. At those words, Suyuk's hand, which was opening the vodka, paused. Schneider was talking about the first time he challenged the Thunder Cave. What are you doing? Let's talk while we drink. I don't really like alcohol. Just drink enough to not get drunk. If you really can't handle it, use your magic to dissipate it. Clink. Saying so, Schneider forcefully clinked his bottle against Suyuk's. Seeing the number of empty bottles, Suyuk realized Schneider was quite drunk. This isn't something you talk about sober, I guess. To match the mood, Suyuk drank the vodka as expected. As if he had been waiting, Schneider began to speak. Everyone was poor back then. I was too. We didn't have the backing of a huge guild, nor were we skilled enough to confidently hunt. It wasn't just that. In fact, most players were like that. Now, Suyuk could easily earn thousands or even tens of thousands of points thanks to his stream. But third-floor players constantly struggled for points. You need points to take the trials. And if you die in the trial, you lose even more points. Schneider murmured as he finished the rest of his drink. Life was such a grind. You probably can't even imagine it. Probably not. Though Suyuk wanted to hear about the Thunder Cave as soon as possible, the atmosphere wasn't right to rush him. What can we players do to earn points? Only hunting. That day was the same. We went hunting to earn trial fees and level up even a little. That day. Yeah, that day. Sadness flickered in Schneider's eyes. We met the Sky Serpent. Sky Serpent. Just a few days ago. It was the monster whose scales Suyuk had hunted and sold. It was also the encounter where Schneider and Suyuk first crossed paths. At that time, it was way out of our league. 7 inexperienced players couldn't even touch it. Schneider now might be different. But do you know what happened? As if resigned to his fate. He let out a bitter smile and lowered his head. 4 of them died. My comrades. No, my friends. Chapter 62. Bang! The bartender, who had been listening to their conversation, brought another bottle of the same vodka. He had mentioned they used to drink together here about 10 years ago. Judging by the bartender's expression, he was unsurprised, as if he already knew the story. So that's why he chose this place for our meeting. Suyuk began to understand why Schneider was so obsessed with the Thunder Cave. Does he blame himself for what happened back then? Seeing Schneider, his head buried and arms wrapped around his head, Suyuk saw a reflection of himself. There's no trial that can't be cleared. His former self, who was confident in tackling the Hydra. Schneider, who led his comrades to challenge the Thunder Cave. Different paths to success as players, but were their actions fundamentally different? The comrades. His breath hitched as he tried to ask the question. He was scared. Scared of the answer. Gritting his teeth, Suyuk reopened his mouth. But it was a question he had to ask. Did they blame you a lot? How did his comrades view Schneider? How did the friends who survived that day, and those who died thinking of him? In response to Suyuk's question, Schneider slowly raised his head. Blame, as if to question the obviousness of the inquiry. With a self-deprecating tone, he nodded. Yes, a lot. Thud. Felt like something dropped inside Suyuk. They blamed me. They said it was all my fault. If only I hadn't been so stubborn. If only we hadn't gone to that damn Thunder Cave. They demanded I bring them back to life. Schneider, vividly recalling that day, uttered the words of his blame-filled companions. His words began to fade away. Nausea welled up inside Suyuk, making him feel like throwing up. The words spilling from Schneider's mouth. They echoed in the voices of Sherwu, Yerong, Minjae, and Suhun, the voices of comrades who died or were injured due to his choices that day. Stop! With great difficulty, he opened his dry mouth. Stop! Stop it already. Schneider ceased his words at Suyuk's urgent plea and gave a bitter laugh. He reached for the bottle beside him. Why? Feeling sorry for me? No. Suyuk shook his head. It wasn't sympathy, but a sense of kinship. A strange empathy born from their similar situations. Schneider had been bearing the same guilt as him for 10 years. You have no intention of giving up, do you? Give up. Schneider scoffed at Suyuk's words. I urged them to take the challenge, causing their deaths. If I give up here, what does that make their deaths? He was right. He would likely feel the same. If his comrades had died not because of Kim Il-su's betrayal but the Hydra. And if the Hydra hunt had ended in failure. No matter how many years it took, no matter what it required, he would have poured all his time and effort into overcoming the Hydra. Anyway, that's why I'm obsessed with the Thunder Cave. Not that you'd understand even after hearing this, right? No, I understand. To Schneider, the Thunder Cave is akin to his own form of vengeance. If he doesn't succeed, he can't face the comrades who died because of him. To him, conquering the Thunder Cave is the only way to find solace for their departed souls. And why are you telling me this? Suyuk felt it was an unnecessary story to hear. His own comrades might think the same way as Schneider's did. The thought had been gripping his heart, as if someone were squeezing it tightly. Moreover, if he were to conquer the Thunder Cave himself, what will happen to this guy, who has been charging ahead solely for the Thunder Cave? I saw hope, thanks to you. Oh. An unexpected response. His expression subtly twisted under his mask. He had come to provide information because he lost a bet. But hope? Listen carefully. But Schneider's face wasn't one of despair. No. Instead, he spoke with more vigor than ever before. About what the Thunder Cave really is. Asterisk. Inside a house frozen white. In the frosty air that formed visible breath, Sherwoo paced back and forth in the same spot. Glancing. He kept glancing at the kit placed on the dining table. He murmured in a worried tone. Why isn't she contacting me? It had been a while since Yerong had left. The last time he heard from her was when she safely reached the 3rd floor, so she must have also reached the tournament venue. Is she playing around midway? She probably would. But, even though it was Yerong, she wouldn't be playing around in a situation like this. If she had obtained Minji's memento, she would have contacted me first. At least this time she should have. So why on earth could it be? His anxiety caused the surrounding air to freeze even further. Did she get caught? The thought horrified him. Yerong was a specialist in disguise and stealth. Particularly in stealth, no one could match her. Unless Kim Il-soo himself came, catching her if she decided to run was impossible. No. Even if he came himself, she would probably escape safe and sound 9 times out of 10. Then why? He had sent her alone because he trusted her skills. He had absolute faith that she wouldn't get caught. But the problem was, she wasn't contacting him. I might have underestimated this. If Kim Il-soo had prepared countermeasures to break Yerong's stealth, his thoughts spiraled into the worst possible scenarios. Crackle. The air around him froze over completely as he considered the possibility of losing Yerong too. Then suddenly, should I go find her? Sherwoo's thoughts escalated dramatically. He knew it was a foolish idea. Kim Il-soo was surrounded by numerous players, and fighting them alone without Yerong was like throwing an egg against a rock. But, rather than surviving alone, he preferred challenging the rock, even as an egg. As Sherwoo was gathering his energy, deep in thought, BZZZ. His kit buzzed. Thinking it might be Yerong, Sherwoo quickly checked. However, Lee Suyuk has started streaming. It was just an alert for a subscribed channel, notifying him that Lee Suyuk's stream had started. What the heck? Disappointment washed over him. He thought it was Yerong's contact. I should just cancel the subscription or something. BZZZ. Then it buzzed again. Shortly after the stream alert, a message came through. Yerong. Sorry to... Sorry? Apologizing for contacting late? If that was the case, she had every reason to be sorry. Given the anxiety he had been feeling, even 100 apologies wouldn't suffice. But, still, it's a relief she's alive. As long as she was safe, that was all that mattered. No need for apologies, just returning safely was enough. She must have been in a situation urgent enough to preclude contact. Just as he thought that. BZZZ. Ha! Another message from Yerong. Yerong. I just gave those shoes to Lee Suyuk. Seeing that, Sherwoo hurriedly checked Lee Suyuk's stream, and the moment he saw the crimson-tinted shoes he was wearing. The relief he felt moments ago turned into anger toward Yerong. Yerong dash. Asterisk. Suyuk started his stream a day after meeting Schneider. Usually, he would start his stream as soon as he began a trial, but this time the situation was different. Just the travel took a whole day. The time it took to travel to the Central Mercenary Guild of the Conrad Kingdom. Under normal circumstances, He would have had to perform missions, build up credentials, and earn a higher mercenary rank while traveling. But Suyuk skipped all that, heading straight to the Central Guild. It wasn't until he arrived there that he started his stream.
Suhai.
Hey, where is this? The building looks kinda fancy. As he went live, viewers began pouring in. Of course, the number of viewers wasn't as high as before. Viewers. 3022. This was the number of viewers even before the stream officially began. At this rate, surpassing 5,000 viewers and possibly reaching 8,000 seemed achievable. However, the speed of viewer increase wasn't as steep as it was during the tournament. It'll be hard to exceed 10,000 viewers like during the tournament. Why is that? The tournament was a special case. There were bets placed and naturally people were more interested. Typically, tournament content draws 1.5 times the average viewership, sometimes even double. Hyang had explained this beforehand, so Suyuk wasn't too disappointed. No, even this was more than enough. I can increase my viewers again later. Putting aside his greed, he officially started the stream.
Hello, I'm Lee Suhuk.
Nice to meet you. His greeting was formal and stiff. Suhai, will he ever fix that stiff greeting? Sorry, I'm still not used to it. Seems like he sucks at streaming after all. Is there a streamer who's good at everything except streaming? Lol, seriously, why call that a streamer? Lol. Fortunately, the viewers seem to have gotten used to it. And Suyuk had also grown accustomed to streaming. So they say, the manager even scolded me about it. For being bad at streaming? Yes, they said if I'm covering my face and can't even host properly, what am I doing? In reality, the words were softer, but the viewers liked spicy commentary. Suyuk intentionally added another remark. Guess I might get fired. Oh, if you get fired, join another network. Yeah, there are plenty of other agencies besides Balhi Entertainment. But no stream grows this fast. Some time was spent engaging with the viewers. For streamers, this was the golden hour. Money Seeker Hyuk has donated 100 points. Did you celebrate after the tournament? Viewers who wished to interact with the streamer were most active with donations during this time. No, I just slept at the lodging. Am I friends with Schneider? No, we're not friends. Thanks for the confession. But I'm not into men. I won't take off the mask. Oh, you want me to take off my pants? Manager, please mute that person. There were a few odd donations mixed in, but Suyuk diligently responded to the donation messages for a few minutes. And just as he thought it was time to start the main stream, Shortened as Delicious has donated 10 points. Are you challenging the Thunder Cave today? A timely question came in. Yes, we'll be challenging the Thunder Cave today. Minus 55,555. Knew it from when he started the stream, lol. Was wondering when he'd start because of all the donations. Is the first attempt possible? Just as Suyuk was about to set off for his Thunder Cave quest. Excuse me. Among the crowd that had been hovering around Suyuk for a while. You're Lee Suyuk, right? The one who streams. A man with narrow, squinty eyes stepped forward and addressed Suyuk. As if he already knew. Yes, that's me. Glad we ran into you here. He spoke awkwardly, as if he was forcing himself to. We're also planning to challenge the Thunder Cave. Suyuk looked at the group of about 10 people behind him. The party consisted of 3 women and 7 men. They were not mercenaries from this world, but players like Suyuk. They came to leech off you. Chapter 63. Not long ago, a post was uploaded to the community. Play button if we party with Lee Suyuk. Can't we get a free ride through the Thunder Cave? Reverse button. Seems like a golden opportunity for those starting in Conrad. It started as a trivial joke, but quite a few people took an interest in the post. Although it didn't make it to the best posts, it amassed over 5,000 views. That's true? The guys on the admin side are scrambling for a ride with Schneider, lol. Looks like we've got a bus driver on our side too. Could it be Lee Suyuk? And most of the interested parties were players who had chosen the Conrad Kingdom. The Thunder Cave, the hottest dungeon on the 3rd floor, The anticipated rewards were obvious, and the added fame as a player for completing it was a bonus. Should we try it? Party recruitment? Win or lose, let's gather in Conrad. Thus, a hastily gathered party was formed. But when blinded by greed, people often overlook what they should truly see. For instance, among the dozens of comments, like this one, Lee Soo-yuk would be really pissed lol. Asterisk. Hyang was the one who informed him of this. Whisper manager Soo-yuk. They're a hastily gathered party from the community trying to leech off you. Whether she had already known or quickly realized, she immediately sent Soo-yuk a whisper as the group approached. Thanks to her, it wasn't hard to figure out what was happening. We just received the Thunder Cave quest moments ago as well. If you accept the quest, we'll be grouped together. The man extended his hand and introduced himself. I'm Jeremy Bale from Earth, just like you. He approached with a friendly smile, but that greeting only further twisted Soo-yuk's mood. So that's what this is about. From Earth. He assumed claiming familiarity based on their shared world would build some rapport. The man, who appeared to be the least skilled, represented the group precisely for that reason. You're here to leech off me? Soo-yuk's blunt question caught the man off guard. Ha! Lol direct hit. Refreshing. Our Soo-yuk has grown up. You guys formed your party through the community, didn't you? Ah, well that's. Bale, having not anticipated such a direct question, hesitated momentarily before responding. Why yes, that's true. But don't pay too much attention to the comments. That's just the way the atmosphere is there. It's not our actual intention. Then what is your intention? We want to clear the Thunder Cave together. We're here to contribute. We're not here to leech or ride a bus, I swear. That's right. It's a misunderstanding. I'm already on my third attempt at the Thunder Cave. Soo-yuk scrutinized the expressions of Bale and the other players. Some genuinely seemed aggrieved, but others clearly did not. Not everyone is an adept actor, after all. Even the supposedly aggrieved ones didn't fully conceal their real expressions. These guys have no chance in the Thunder Cave. The Thunder Cave's known difficulty, especially what he learned from Schneider, meant these weaklings had no business there. However, a lone thing. Schneider's words floated into Soo-yuk's mind, making him smirk beneath his mask. I guess they might come in handy after all. This is why he couldn't give up the mask. Being able to hide his expression had its advantages. Soo-yuk nodded and looked at Bale. Well, anyway, let's do our best. Really? If you've already applied for the quest, there's no turning back. I can't just kill you all because I don't like it. Haha, that's, quite intense. Bale laughed awkwardly, rolling his eyes. He appeared both frightened and relieved. Though I'd prefer to leave them behind if possible. Even if they had some utility, organizing a community raid to leech off him was irritating. If I harm or kill the situation differed from when he previously subdued mercenaries. If he injured or killed the mercenaries here, he might be disqualified from taking the Thunder Cave quest altogether. Did they act with that in mind? If they did, they were fairly clever. Knowing their own weaknesses, they set it up so Soo-yuk couldn't act. Soo-yuk smiled under his mask and left them with a final warning. And remember just one thing. What is it? This is a journey together, not a partnership. Don't expect anything more from me. Meaning, whatever happens there, it's your responsibility. Asterisk. A recommendation letter, huh? Fortunately, the recommendation letter Soo-yuk received did its job. Well, it's from Raymond, so it can't be ignored. It seemed that mercenary Raymond had quite a bit of clout. Just this once, though. Thanks to the recommendation letter, Soo-yuk could participate in the Thunder Cave quest. However, Raymond, even so, letting in E-ranked, he did have to endure some grumbling. The plight of being E-rank.
Soo-yuk lol. Soo-yuk ah.
Suddenly, Soo-yuk found himself being humorously referred to as Isoo-yuk by his viewers. In any case, thanks to the recommendation letter, Soo-yuk successfully completed his registration for the Thunder Cave quest. even if it was a one-time deal. Departure is in an hour. Gather at the western exit of the city. See you then. The mercenary, clearly still displeased with Suyuk, spat out the words tersely. Having timed the stream to align with the Thunder Cave schedule, there wasn't much free time left. At the western exit of the city, there he encountered Bale and his party, along with 3 mercenaries. What's this? You're back. Why are there so many people? The 3 mercenaries appeared startled by the unexpected number of participants. Typically, a Thunder Cave raid wouldn't exceed 5 people. But this time, the group numbered a hefty 14. For them, this must have been quite baffling. Here, Suyuk handed over his mercenary badge and raid permit for identification. The raid leader scrutinized Suyuk's badge and permit, then frowned.
E rank?
Oh.
Forever e Suyuk lol.
How did an E-rank get here? The raid leader, an S-rank mercenary named Demon, glared at Suyuk. It was as if he were looking at a student caught cheating during a trial. Isn't it written there? Raymond's recommendation letter? Correct. I thought that guy had good judgment, even if his skills were lacking. Clearly unimpressed, he looked Suyuk up and down. Oh, an off-worlder?
No wonder.
The mercenary finally nodded, seeming to understand. Guys like you don't know the value of your own lives. Unlike us. At his provocative words, Suyuk turned to his microphone and spoke. Should I just vulture this guy too? LOL. Vulture LOL. To vulture equals to beat someone up first and ask questions later. Vulture was the name of the mercenary who first picked a fight with Suyuk. By subduing 10 mercenaries at that time, Suyuk earned the recommendation from Raymond. Since then, vulture had become a popular term among his viewers. Still, this guy seems pretty capable. Suyuk observed the openly hostile mercenary. An S-rank meant he was quite skilled. As the raid leader for the Thunder Cave, he was likely worth the equivalent of 4 or 5 A-rank mercenaries. The same applied to Bale and the other players. Earning the authorization to enter the Thunder Cave indicated they had achieved A-rank mercenary status. It meant they were considered competent on the 3rd floor. But this doesn't look like a solo raid anymore, no matter how you see it. True, with these guys tagging along, the solo idea is out the window. No way, that's not fair. For real, Isuyuk didn't gather this party on purpose. Among the viewers, opinions about whether this still counted as a solo raid began to diverge. I'll leave the judgment to you and those who placed the missions, Suyuk addressed his audience. Admin Kingdom Camp. Nearly 30 players were divided into 2 groups, glaring at each other. And in the center of it all, Schneider frowned and asked, "Who ordered this? Half of you need to step back. We've been ordered to join the Thunder Cave raid this time." The man who spoke scoffed and answered Schneider's question. "The Guild Master ordered it. Is that clear enough? Guild Master Kim Il-soo? Looks like you've lost your edge." Whether it was out of loyalty or a desire to challenge his authority, a man with spiky hair, a well-known figure even to Schneider, brazenly spoke up. Paul Ryman. He was a notable player who, despite being part of Blue Zone, wasn't originally from Earth. This was because he had only recently joined the guild. A talented player who had been making a name for himself. Schneider had known about him since he declared his intent to raid the Thunder Cave about 6 months ago. He had always been trouble. Of all times, he had to run into him now as they went on this raid together. "You should have done better. Because of you, we lost precious rewards to some random guy, naturally earning the guild master's ire." That sounds strange. Strange. You saying it's because of me implies it would have been different if it were you. At Schneider's words, Paul Ryman's eyes widened. "I wonder. Do you want to know?" "Not particularly," Schneider replied, lightly resting his spear on one shoulder. "It's obvious without seeing. Talking like that helps you regain a bit of pride." "Huh? This guy is really..." Unable to hold back, Don Zhao stepped forward, but Schneider stopped him with an outstretched hand. Paul Ryman glanced at Don Zhao and shrugged. "Anyway, our team will be joining this raid. This time, we might succeed in conquering the Thunder Cave. With that, Paul Ryman turned and walked back to his group. It was clear. Decide among yourselves who the 10 stepping out would be. That jerk really. Enough. Let it go. Preventing Don Zhao from losing his temper again, Schneider watched Paul Ryman's retreating figure. Still, he did say one thing right. He said something right? Like, something you'd want to hit.
No.
Not that. What in the world was right in that gobbledygook? Clearly furious, Don Zhao's face was bright red. In contrast, Schneider, who would normally be the most enraged, seemed oddly calm. There was one thing he said right. Among Paul Ryman's words, there was one truth. That this time we will succeed in conquering the Thunder Cave. This time, conquering the Thunder Cave would indeed happen. Chapter 64. The Thunder Cave was located between the Odman and Conrad kingdoms. A dungeon situated precisely in the middle. Additionally, the raid schedule for the Thunder Cave was the same for both kingdoms. The entrance to the Thunder Cave opened and closed at regular intervals, making this inevitable. What a strange place. Gazing at the distant, enormous mountain, S-rank mercenary demon muttered to himself. Opening the same gates at set intervals. It reeks of an artificial construct. Who is he talking to? Master of talking to himself. This guy sure is sentimental. Suyuk rubbed his ears, annoyed by demons murmuring right next to him. He's a classic extra character. Oh, true that. Extra. Definition. Someone who explains everything. Suyuk took in the whole view of the Thunder Cave. It's even bigger in person. He had already seen pictures of the Thunder Cave via his kit, but seeing it in person was a different experience altogether. The mountain ridge seemed to be at least 500 meters high. The ridge stretched out, revealing the artificially created entrance to the cave, just as Demon described. Rumble. The sound of thunder reached them even from a considerable distance. This was why the cave was named Thunder Cave. Let's go. At some point, Demon had assumed the role of the party leader. Suyuk followed him toward the entrance of the Thunder Cave. Rumble, rumble. The closer they got, the clearer the sound of thunder became. The entrance of the Thunder Cave is guarded by lightning, preventing anyone from entering. You seem to know a lot about the Thunder Cave? Bale asked, and Demon nodded.
Ido.
This isn't my first attempt. Really? This is my third time. Just so you know, fewer than 20 mercenaries have returned alive from the Thunder Cave. I'm one of them. Demon boasted about something no one asked about. Still, surviving previous attempts at the Thunder Cave indicated his prowess. Are you really planning to clear it? It won't be easy. Are you nuts? Unlike you guys, I don't have multiple lives. Then, the Thunder Imprint. That's what I'm after. The Thunder Imprint. A rare material item that had surfaced on the market a few times. Even without reaching the end of the Thunder Cave, one could obtain this valuable item. And it was one of the few reasons mercenaries still took an interest in the Thunder Cave. Once I get the Thunder Imprint, I can quit this hellish life. I'm tired of this dangerous mercenary work. Essentially, he planned to strike it big in the Thunder Cave and retire. The Thunder Imprint was that valuable of an item, and it held the same value for players as well. You're not planning to go all the way? Of course not. You have no idea what's ahead, which is why you can say that. Skeptically laughing at Bale's words, Demon turned to Suyuk. Especially you, Irank. Don't do anything. Or if you're going to die, do it early. Don't get in our way and cause trouble. Demon's constant provocations. He clearly didn't like the fact that an Irank mercenary had hitched a ride on the raid party with a recommendation letter. The party approached the Thunder Cave. The Thunder Cave had two entrances, one towards the Odman Kingdom and the other towards the Conrad Kingdom. Inside, the two entrances mirrored each other. This symmetry was why Suyuk could use the intel he got from Schneider effectively. This is the entrance. Boom dash. The Thunder Cave. The entrance, over 10 meters tall, looked like a giant maw. Lightning crackled across the entrance, preventing anyone from entering. The thunderous noise came from there. The entrance only opened once every 2 months and stayed open for just 1 day. When the lightning ceased, the raid began. Sizzle, crackle, rumble. The entrance was still closed. Lightning violently struck the entrance amid the thunderous noise. Watching the entrance and the sky alternatively, Demon spoke. Judging by the position of the sun, the entrance will open in about an hour. Everyone, rest until then. Demon, having taken on the role of party leader, gave instructions and leaned against the wall to rest. The mercenaries who followed him, along with Bale and the other players, did the same. It's waiting time. Got time to share your first love story? Viewers, feeling the boredom of waiting, shared the sentiment. On the other side, Schneider and the raid party from the Oddman Kingdom, gathered to tackle the Thunder Cave again, were likely in the same situation. However, Sizzle, instead of waiting like the others, Suyuk approached the entrance of the Thunder Cave. Where's he going? It's not open yet. The viewers were bewildered, sending frantic comments in the chat. But Suyuk chose to move forward instead of responding. It feels similar to that time, the second floor trial. Inside Millennium Mountain, where he went to obtain the lightning spear. The energy enveloping the lightning spear felt the same as the one at this entrance. Crackle. He stretched out his hand to gauge the intensity. A brief sting soon growing familiar. Yes, there was a significant difference between now and then. Heart of the Lightning resists the Thunder Gate. Resisted status effect. Electrocution. Heart of the Lightning. An artifact created so humans could wield the great power of lightning. And it was now in Suyuk's hands. What the hell is he doing? Is he insane? Does he have a death wish?
Suhuknim.
Where are you going? Seeing Suyuk's actions, Demon, Bale, and the other mercenaries and players rushed towards him. But Suyuk didn't stop and continued inward. The mercenaries chasing him came to a halt, unable to follow him inside. It doesn't harm me. The initial sting was brief. Beyond that, it felt almost comforting. So it wasn't just closed after all. At first, he had intended to break through, but it seemed that wouldn't be necessary. Thunder Gate is assessing eligibility. Lightning responds to Thunder Gate. Heart of the Lightning responds to Thunder Gate. Sizzle, crackle dash. For a moment, the gate shook violently. It trembled as if about to explode, then slowly calmed down, akin to a dying ember. Crackle. The electric currents drew together, converging into a single point and fading. And then, Thunder Gate transforms into Thunder Imprint and disappears. Shine. The concentrated electric charge of the Thunder Gate transformed into a yellow crystal and fell into Suyuk's hand. The once fierce-eyed demon's eyes went wide.
Elle lightning.
The very reason he risked his life and sought the Thunder Cave repeatedly, to secure his retirement and make a fortune. And now, the object of that quest lay in Suyuk's hand. Demon had been to the Thunder Cave 3 times in search of the Thunder Imprint. But unexpectedly, the item was now in someone else's possession. Wasn't expecting this. Suyuk looked at the small crystal in his hand. A thumbnail-sized, yellow-glowing crystal. The Thunder Imprint was a rare material item that players who challenged the Thunder Cave could obtain, albeit at very slim odds. Not only Demon, but even among players, some sought the Thunder Cave for quick riches. Of course, given the dungeon's difficulty and the fact it opened only 1 day every 2 months, finding the Thunder Imprint was akin to reaching for the stars. So it wasn't simply closed. The thunderous noise faded, and the gate swung wide open. It felt as though it had been awaiting him. It was looking for its rightful owner. 2 keys unlocked the gate. The first was lightning. The second, the heart of the lightning. In other words, the Thunder Cave on the 3rd floor was an extension of the lightning trial. Wow, incredible. Why here of all places? Lucky bastard, damn. What's the market price for that? The chat exploded with excitement upon the appearance of the Thunder Imprint. Viewers were fervently debating its market value. Given it hadn't appeared on the market in years, its exact price was unknown. meaning it was a name-your-price item. But while his viewers were immersed in this joyful topic, Suyuk moved swiftly. Whoosh! Wham! An axe flew past, narrowly missing his head and smashing into the wall. Demon had aimed it at Suyuk's neck. Demon, shocked at missing, glared at Suyuk, who had quickly moved out of range. Missed! Of course, it was an axe meant to kill. Having observed Suyuk's movements, Demon realized he wasn't facing a novice. His eyes hardened as he gripped the axe with both hands, pulling it out of the wall. Looks like you didn't get that recommendation letter for nothing. Clatter. Debris fell from the cracked wall. It was an impressive axe throw, enough to make him think Demon could have succeeded as a lumberjack. Any substantial tree would likely fall with a single swing like that. Just hand it over, and I'll let you off easy. It wasn't meant for you. You were just lucky it fell into your hands. It was a fallacy. Demon probably had some inkling that the Thunder Gate transforming and the imprint falling into Suyuk's hands wasn't mere coincidence. Step. Two mercenaries who had joined the party with Demon approached and stood by his sides. Though they weren't on Demon's level, they were confident enough in their skills to challenge the Thunder Cave. They each drew their weapons and glared at Suyuk with murderous intent. Even if you aren't from this world, dying must still matter to you. Isn't that right? Demon grinned, showing his yellowed teeth. His statement was true. Even if death in the trials wasn't permanent, it didn't free one from pain. Moreover, failing the trial meant losing points as a penalty. Reattempting the trial required paying the entry fee again, which was a significant burden. Demon had likely killed many players throughout his long mercenary career. However, this settles it then. Suyuk nodded, almost as if relieved, and said, I'll vulture these guys too, without adjusting his microphone. Vulture? What is he babbling about? Demon and his companions didn't understand the meaning behind Suyuk's words and tilted their heads. They expected him to either negotiate splitting the loot or boast about his skills and challenge them head-on. But vulture? Seems like they're not up to date with the latest trends. Suyuk still hadn't adjusted his microphone. And then, they'll find out soon enough. He moved his feet to enlighten them about the latest trend. Tails Corner. Vulture these bitches. Chapter 65. Thud. Thud. Blood dripped from the corner of Demon's eye and fell to the ground. The crimson-tainted vision. Demon couldn't believe the situation unfolding before him. Why? His thoughts jumbled, unable to form coherent sentences. Kari. The sound of another comrade's breathing ceasing echoed from not far away. As he turned, he saw a sword piercing his comrade's neck. A sleek, crimson-hued sword. The sword, now extracted from his comrade's neck, was pointed at Demon. Not bad, I suppose. You got one right. Suyuk nodded in acknowledgement. Demon's face still held an air of disbelief. Regardless, Suyuk charged towards Demon. Hey! Demon reflexively swung his axe. Though the force behind it was lacking, it wasn't a bad defensive reaction. But, good job. Sweet. As the sound of flesh being sliced filled the air, Demon confirmed with his own eyes that his familiar body part was flying away. My arm. The axe still clutched in his hand. Demon's arm had been severed. Ah! The scream was more out of fear than pain. For a mercenary like him, losing an arm might be as terrifying as death itself. Blood spilled in clumps to the ground. His gaze wavered, stumbling backward. You reacted well. If you hadn't swung that axe, it would have been your neck that got severed. Suyuk stood still, speaking in the same spot. It might have been better for you, but... You! Demon's gaze fixed on the crimson-hued sword in Suyuk's hand. You're using a magic sword. Oh! At Demon's sudden outburst, Suyuk tilted his head, looking puzzled. Ah, you're right. Demonic swords consumed the user's life force. While it was true for low-grade demonic swords, the performance of higher-grade ones increased exponentially. In exchange, the magic sword demanded not just the user's stamina but their fundamental energy, their lifespan. Demon seemed to think that the magic sword in Suyuk's hand was of that kind. However, what can I say? This is my livelihood. Selfish sacrifice LV5 resists the damage from the nameless magic sword. Resistance successful. The user's stamina and mental energy are fully recovered. The ability of the magic sword Suyuk wielded was exactly at the level that the 5th level selfish sacrifice could handle. If you're unhappy, you can buy one yourself with your own money. This is Scorch. Just as Demon was about to say something, a crimson afterimage moved, drawing a straight line across Demon's neck. Before he could finish speaking, Demon's head had flown off. Thud. Demon has been defeated. You have been attacked by a party member. No penalty has been applied. As Demon's life force ceased, the message played. Fortunately, there were no penalties for killing the 3 of them. Since they were the ones who had first seen Suyuk as an enemy and attacked, it was only fair. With that brief episode concluded. 18 months has donated 1,000 points. Since when did vulture mean kill everyone? Let's make this demon from now on. A donation came in as if it had been waiting for this moment. Suyuk flicked the remaining blood off his sword and responded. Thank you for the donation, 18 months. But demon doesn't sound quite right. I'll think about it. Despite his reluctance, the viewers had their own ideas. If demon is off, how about demon? Let's go with demon sword. Shout, cry, demon sword, and I'll donate more. Lol, cry, demon sword. Ha ha ha. Cry, demon sword? Just imagining it gave Suyuk a headache. He shook his head. From the start, his streams had been about skill, not clowning around like bald Suyuk. I'll pass. After a brief interaction with his viewers, Suyuk looked at Bale and his colleagues, who were watching him from the entrance of the Thunder Cave. Holding up the Thunder imprint, he asked, "Do any of you want this?" Bale quickly shook his head in alarm. No. It's yours, Suyuk, of course. We have no claim to it at all. It's all thanks to the lightning that you got it. Both Bale and his colleagues vehemently refused. Having witnessed what happened to Demon and his men, no one was foolish enough to covet it. Cowards. This is why little brats are quick on their feet. If he asked for it, it would have been Demon Sword. Time. Lol, Demon Sword. Suyuk, sharing the same objective, clicked his tongue in disappointment. It wouldn't have been bad to ditch them here. No helping it, I guess. Suyuk placed the Thunder imprint in his inventory. Whether he would use it or sell it at an auction was still undecided. It wasn't something he needed to decide immediately, so he left it in his inventory for now. With preparations complete, Suyuk began walking into the cave. Let's go. While contemplating how to best utilize these leeches who thought of riding the bus. The interior of the Thunder Cave was unusually bright. The ceiling, though blocking out sunlight, was dotted with yellow lights that acted as natural lanterns. Step, step. In the quiet cave, the only sound was the footsteps of the raid party led by Suyuk. Everyone was tense, knowing that monsters could appear at any moment. And then,
BZZZ.
on the path entering the Thunder Cave, Bale's kit buzzed. Jenny, are you sure this is okay? Jenny was the player just behind Bale, whom he had met in the community and formed a party with. Bale, what are you talking about? Jenny, what we saw earlier. I have a bad feeling about this. They communicated via text on their kits, fearing that even whispers might echo through the quiet cave. Bale, don't worry. All we have to do is avoid doing anything dumb like those idiots earlier. Jenny, still, I feel like we'll just get blamed. Bale, that's a risk we have to take. And until we make the first move, Lee Suyuk can't do anything to us. Tap, tap, tap. Bale's fingers moved swiftly over his kit. Bale, all streamers are like this. Because of their image, they have to kowtow to people like us. We just need to quietly hitch a ride. Jenny, will he really share the rewards? Bale, we'll just have to insist. As they were busy exchanging messages. Howl. From deep within the cave, the cry of a beast, whether dog or wolf, echoed. And that howl, 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 quickly spread to the rear as well. At the back too? But we just came through there. There was nothing. The source of the howls soon revealed itself. Wolves with silvery fur tinged with a faint yellow glow. They bared sharp, agile-looking jaws and teeth as they howled. But calling them wolves seemed insufficient given their size. These creatures were closer to tigers than wolves in stature. Those must be. You'll probably encounter lightning wolves first. Schneider had informed him about these creatures. Though knowing their name wasn't particularly challenging, even without Schneider's help. The important part was not just the name. It was Schneider's wealth of knowledge, gained from numerous challenges and relentless research over many years. They're not impossible to kill, but it's a waste of stamina. There's an easier way. Whoosh! Ignoring the lightning wolves behind him, Suyuk charged forward. Bale shouted in surprise. Suyuk, what about us? He felt like telling them to handle it themselves, but Suyuk's focus was already on the smallest lightning wolf in the pack. They're quite peculiar. Howl, howl, howl. Lightning wolves blocked his path. Typically, the leader of a pack is the largest one, but not these guys. Several lightning wolves lunged at Suyuk, brandishing their claws and teeth. Instinctively, their long claws aimed for his heart, while their huge jaws sought to snap his neck. But even amidst this chaos, Suyuk's focus remained on the smallest lightning wolf. Whish, crack. Two lightning wolves brushed past him on either side. Their claws and teeth gnawed at the air as Suyuk smoothly dodged and passed them. Swish. His steps became lighter. He glanced at the shoes he was wearing. These work well. The nimble thief's footwear, an item that increased movement speed and jumping power, ensuring simplicity and efficiency. Leaping over the two lightning wolves, Suyuk dashed toward the leader of the pack. And in the next instant, crackle, howl, howl, howl. The leader, glowing with yellow sparks in its fur, roared fiercely at Suyuk before swiftly charging. Flash, appearing as though it had used a lightning bolt, the lightning wolf leader materialized before Suyuk's eyes. Crash! Thud! The leader's front paw struck the ground so powerfully that it tore up the rocks. The speed and strength were far beyond the other lightning wolves. This is it. Howl, howl. Crackle. The leader's fur gradually turned more yellow. Size didn't matter. The thunderous power within it was the true mark of the leader. This one's the leader. Thus, responding in kind. Lightning is activated. Lightning imbues your feet. Suyuk increased his tempo. Flash. He springboarded swiftly into the air. The lightning wolf leader's snapping jaws bit into the wall where Suyuk had been. Crunch. Grardash. The disoriented leader felt something odd in its mouth. Thud. A sharp red blade pierced through the lightning wolf leader's head. Lightning wolf leader has been defeated.
Lightning Wolf's morale decrease spunto.
You have leveled up. Strength increases by 1. Agility increases by 1. Stamina increases by 1. Regardless of how many times he heard it, the message was always pleasing. The lightning wolf leader was a significant source of experience. And with the leader dead, the pack. Whimper, whine, grar. Upon making eye contact with Suyuk, they became like frightened puppies. The leader was dead. Now only the final stage remained here. As long as you take down the leader, then from that point ... Just as Schneider had informed him. After a moment's contemplation, Suyuk spoke to the lightning wolves. Sit. And then, whimper, whine, whine. Dozens of lightning wolves crouched and sat down. I'll be the new leader. Tail's corner.
Demon is demon and demon is demon.
And the last part, chapter 66. Whimper, whine. Bale and his companions, who had been struggling against the lightning wolves, now wore bewildered expressions. The once ferocious lightning wolves had become docile pups. The fierce beasts were now obediently lying down at Suyuk's command, as if they were loyal dogs following their master. Suyuk, what is this? Let's go. Pardon. Ignoring Bale's attempt at questioning, Suyuk instead gave a command to the lightning wolves. Let's move. Howl! Howl, howl! At Suyuk's words, the sitting lightning wolves rose and responded with howls. Lightning wolves have been subjugated. You can command the lightning wolves within the thunder cave. The pack of lightning wolves followed Suyuk. Baal and his companions murmured, staring at Suyuk and the wolf pack. What on earth is happening? Why are the wolves? I feel like we're the stragglers here now. Dozens of lightning wolves were beyond the combined strength of Baal and his group. But Suyuk had somehow managed to subjugate them in a single move. Can we even keep up with him? Initially, their plan had been to latch onto Lee Suyuk, aiming to gain rewards and performance points from the Thunder Cave. But at some point, the thought crept in that even that might not be easy. Demon is dead, and the lightning wolves are under Suyuk's command. Nothing was going as anticipated. Perhaps, streamers are all the same, aren't they? Because of their image, they have to kowtow to people like us. Even his own assumptions. Baal's anxiety grew. So what happens next? Step. Filled with undefined dread, they trailed behind Suyuk. Hey, everyone! Thud. Walking while surrounded by the lightning wolves, Suyuk suddenly stopped and spoke. Howl. Loudly. What do you mean? Baal's eyes widened in alarm. Howl? Right here? In the middle of the Thunder Cave? But it was too late to question him. Awoo! Awoo! The lightning wolves howled in unison. The cave reverberated with their howls, creating an ear-splitting noise. This is insane. Suyuk, what is this? Some of the quicker-witted players realized the implications of the lightning wolves' howls. Cold sweat trickled down Baal's back. This is my way. Your way. Drive hunting. Crackle, sizzle. Roar. Growl. Monsters with various appearances, all with yellow fur, began to emerge. Some resembled bears, others were snakes with yellow scales slithering along the walls, and even creatures made of rocks were present. How many were there? The number of monsters that came into view was at least dozens, and considering those lurking behind, it easily surpassed 100. What kind of drive hunt is this? This is S*********E. The monsters in the Thunder Cave weren't like typical monsters. Even the lightning wolves Suyuk commanded required at least 2 or 3 players on the 3rd floor to hunt them down. With the lightning wolves, it should be manageable. You don't need to worry about me. What about us? Baal's panicked question was met with a smirk from Suyuk behind his mask. Didn't I tell you? This is just a journey together. At that moment, Baal realized something unmistakable. This is a journey together, not a partnership. Don't expect anything more from me. From the very start, Suyuk had planned this situation. Let each fight for their own survival. John Dale had a peculiar expression watching the chaos unfold on the screen. Hundreds of monsters from the Thunder Cave. They were creating an all-out melee with Lee Suyuk, the Lightning Wolves, and the dozen or so players who had tagged along. Is this all right? The staff member, who was monitoring in place of Cheon Riang, who was on leave, asked. She had immediately reported the situation to John Dale as soon as it happened. After hearing her report and seeing the situation on screen, John Dale's expression remained inscrutable. Team leader. It's neither fine nor not fine. Players being swept up by waves of monsters. With no more to see, John Dale averted his gaze from the screen and spoke. In the end, it depends on how the streamer handles it. But ultimately, this is... Yeah, he'll get some flack. Suyuk had utilized the lightning wolves howling to call forth monsters. As a result, his party was placed in jeopardy. This would be seen as team killing and trolling. Ordinarily, that is. But this case is a bit unique, isn't it? John Dale showed the screen he had found on the kit. It was a post from the players' community recruiting party members for Lee Suyuk's stream specifically to leech off him. They wanted to hitch a ride. It wasn't just suspicion. They even provided solid proof. And those guys clearly don't have the skills to tackle the Thunder Cave. Before he could finish speaking, yet another player met their end. Reading the post, John Dale chuckled derisively. Not just anyone can hitch a ride on a bus, right? Will public opinion agree with that? Not everyone will, but still. John Dale watched Suyuk ruthlessly deal with the leeching players and nodded. This is probably the best bet. The best bet? Isn't it safer to just take them along, even if it's a bit tedious? It might be, just this once. Just this once. John Dale emphasized that point. The monitoring staff realized belatedly how short-sighted her initial thoughts were. Ah, exactly. Do you think people won't flock to a free bus ride? If he takes them along this time, expect hordes of them like ants next time. The image is crucial for a streamer, and there are always those who would exploit that. This time was no different. As a streamer, Suyuk understood the need to maintain his image. There were always those who, without the necessary skills or commitment, hoped to coast along and reap the benefits of his hard work. So, Lee Suyuk the streamer is showing everyone. He was sending a message to those who leech and to the countless future would-be bales. Don't even dream of leeching off my efforts. I see. The monitoring staff could only nod in agreement. This was Suyuk's best option. It was the optimal choice both as a player and as a streamer. However, the issue was that he was a streamer. But what did you mean by it depends on the streamer? Didn't he handle it well? Sometimes there are problems with no right answer. Our job is often like that. An enigmatic response. Sensing that his explanation was lacking, John Dale elaborated. Streamers, in situations like this, will always face criticism, whether they respond or not. No matter which choice they make? Exactly. Would you be able to handle it? A situation like this? His question left her speechless. Handling it. That question was loaded with meaning. John Dale, the team leader of the management division at Balhi Entertainment. His experience with many streamers, from those who couldn't handle criticism and retired, to those who pretended to be unfazed but lost their essence due to fear of criticism, informed this perspective. When I say it depends on the streamer, that's what I mean. We know. We understand they're not at fault and that they had no choice. We're closer to them than the viewers. It's difficult. Yes, it is difficult. That's why streamers need more than just streaming skills. Then what do they need? Mental fortitude, the ability to withstand and sometimes overcome unfair situations and criticism. John Dale's gaze returned to the stream screen. Watching Suyuk finish the hunt, he continued, seemingly curious. I wonder, does Lee Suyuk the streamer have that kind of mental fortitude? Asterisk. You have leveled up. Strength increased by 1. Stamina increased by 1. Focus increased by 1. Messages that were always pleasing to hear. But he couldn't afford to be too pleased with them at the moment. Roar. A bear with glistening yellow fur opened its jaws wide. Suyuk reached out towards the drooling maw. Sizzle. Lightning shot from his fingertips. The head of the charging bear exploded, and he turned towards the last remaining creature. Hiss. Slish. A serpent that had been silently crawling along the wall aiming for Suyuk's head was sliced in half. Phew! Suyuk exhaled deeply and surveyed his surroundings. The players who had hoped to hitch a ride, as well as the lightning wolves that had followed him, were all dead. He was the only one still standing. He did it? He actually killed them all, OMG. I thought he was done for because of those leecher players. Doubting Hose LOL, did you think he couldn't do it? For real LOL. Half of his viewers had doubted him, while the other half had believed in him. Given the sheer number of monsters in the Thunder Cave, it wasn't surprising that some were skeptical. I need to rest a bit. To rid himself of these troublesome leeches, Suyuk had taken drastic measures. While it didn't hinder his immediate progress, there was still a long way to go to conquer the Thunder Cave fully. Currently, he was merely at the entrance of the cave. Swish. Turning to the now deserted rear, Suyuk spoke. It counts as soloing now, right? For real LOL. This totally counts, ha ha ha. He literally turned it into a solo mission LOL. The mission given to Suyuk was to solo the Thunder Cave. However, the presence of Bale and the other 10 players had complicated the mission from the start. Unexpectedly, Demon had coveted the thunder imprint Suyuk had obtained, and Bale and the other players were disposed of as initially planned. Thus, the condition for soloing was now fulfilled. Ex-Convict 1-2 has donated 100 points. Wouldn't the result have been the same if you just left them when the lightning wolves attacked? Along with the donation came a message. True? If he left them, they probably would have died anyway. For real, they seemed completely incompetent. They were right. Even dealing with the lightning wolves was beyond the capabilities of Bale and the other players. Had Suyuk not taken down the lightning wolf leader, the situation would have resolved itself much sooner. Despite that, Suyuk hadn't taken that approach. Because then I couldn't have made it clear. He needed to make sure they understood. This is what happens if you think you can just hitch a ride. Suyuk chose the direct approach. To those ready to criticize and scrutinize the streamer. Come at me if you dare. Chapter 67. So I had to make it clear. This is what happens if you think you can just hitch a ride. Lee Suyuk's voice echoed beyond the screen. John Dale, watching the stream with great interest, burst into laughter. Ha! Ha ha ha! Team leader. The startled staff turned to look at John Dale. They had worked together for quite some time, but she had never seen him laugh so heartily. What was so funny? After laughing for quite a while, John Dale gradually composed himself and spoke. Sorry about that. He's just something else, this guy. His laughter wasn't just for amusement. It was a mix of incredulity, astonishment, and a sense of relief. Lee Suyuk's statement was unnecessary. Even with the donation question, he could have easily dodged or mixed in a bit of a lie. He could have said he didn't expect this outcome or blamed it on the lack of skill of the players who were left behind. Either way, he would have faced criticism. Some would blame Suyuk for the deaths of the players who joined his raid. But Suyuk didn't take that route. Instead, he did the opposite. He took it head-on. He's not foolish enough to be unaware of the impact of his words. John Dale hadn't observed Suyuk extensively, but he had been impressed by him several times. And that was not only as a player but also as a streamer. Every action and answer is planned. His guts were unbelievable. To deal with the leeching players in such a decisive manner from the get-go. Just to be sure, John Dale called Unhyang. Team leader. I'm busy. Don't. This is regarding Lee Suyuk, so don't hang up. Anticipating that she would hang up to watch the stream, John Dale hurriedly mentioned Lee Suyuk's name. This way, even Unhyang, with her capricious nature, wouldn't hang up right away. What is it? I just want to ask one thing. Did you tell Lee Suyuk about the community post? Yes, I did. Unhyang answered without asking which post he was referring to. Given the content of the stream, it could only be about the Thunder Cave bus party recruitment post. Really? So, was this planned with you? What planning? Where would he have the time for that? If you're going to say nonsense, I'm hanging up. Click. And with that, Unhyang ended the call. Always so courteous. It hardly felt like the attitude of a subordinate, but John Dale had grown used to it by now. In any case. So, it was all his idea. Nodding, John Dale focused back on Suyuk's stream. Then we also need to make an effort. An effort? You saved the community post, right? Yes, of course. Good. Well done. An experienced staff knows to keep evidence in situations like these. John Dale smiled, cracking his fingers tired from working all night. Let's show them. Let's show Lee Suyuk that he has a strong company behind him. The Oddman Kingdom raid party. While waiting for the door to open, they began their raid into the Thunder Cave and were first faced with the pack of lightning wolves. Howl, howl. Howl. The wolves lunged at them with fierce growls. Paul Ryman, alongside his comrades, began cutting down the wolves. The players from the Oddman Kingdom were all elites, each one handpicked by the Blue Zone, proven players on the third floor. However, Schneider, who should have taken the lead and been the first to move, remained motionless. He simply impaled any lightning wolves that lunged at him. Are you protesting because I joined your raid? Crash! Paul Ryman's massive greatsword shattered the heads of the charging lightning wolves. Paul Ryman was the replacement card the Blue Zone had brought in to substitute for Schneider. Though he might not be Schneider's equal, he was undoubtedly a skilled warrior. But without Schneider's help, the raid party was bound to suffer casualties. Schneider! Finally, Paul Ryman stopped fighting and approached Schneider. Then, damn, you're annoyingly loud. Don Zhao, who was battling lightning wolves nearby, said irritably. If you don't understand, just watch quietly. Don't interfere. What? Interfere? Paul Ryman's anger now turned towards Don Zhao. Defending him just because he's on your side. Found it. What? Not understanding Don Zhao's words, Paul Ryman followed his gaze back to Schneider. What had he found? When he turned to look, Paul Ryman's eyes widened. A throwing spear? Schneider, who had seemed dazed just moments ago, was now holding a javelin, pulling back his arm. Howl, howl! A lightning wolf charged at Schneider. Even as the swift wolf bore down on him, Schneider didn't blink, keeping his aim steady. And the next moment, thwack! The spear in Schneider's hand flew. Boom! A hole exploded through the lightning wolf's body. Despite the impact, the spear continued in a straight line. The target was the smallest wolf within the pack. Thud! Schneider's spear punctured the wolf's head perfectly. Howl! Growl! Growl! The pack of rampaging lightning wolves began to react differently. The bloodthirsty wolves started to hesitate and scatter. Then, good boys! At Schneider's command, they began to settle. Sit! Growl! Growl! Whimper! Whine! The chaos was swiftly quelled. Schneider's team lowered their weapons, preparing for the next move. In contrast, Paul Ryman and the new team members looked bewildered. What they? Paul Ryman stared in astonishment at the lightning wolves laying flat on the ground. I've dedicated 10 years to the Thunder Cave. Schneider, who had approached him, started speaking. You know nothing about the Thunder Cave. Neither does the guild leader. Step, step. As he slowly passed by, Schneider met his gaze. If you're smart, I recommend turning back. It's better than having your mediocre skills shattered and losing the confidence you've built up. Swish! Schneider's words hung in the air as he walked past Paul Ryman. He looked further inside the Thunder Cave, a place he had become all too familiar with. Not far now. Countless attempts that couldn't be numbered. Today would be the day to see the end. Or so I hope. Imagining the depths of the Thunder Cave yet unexplored, Schneider's eyes gleamed. Lee Suyuk. Asterisk. Suyuk took a short break to recover his condition. During this time, he engaged with his viewers. He had grown quite accustomed to chatting with them. While most of the conversations were trivial and useless, he found them surprisingly enjoyable. A girl I keep in touch with? My manager. Does my face resemble bald Suyuk? How does he look? Manager Nim, could you please mute? No, just ban that viewer? Time flew by as he engaged in these small conversations. Occasionally, donations came in, making the time spent feel far from wasted. In fact, I think interacting with viewers generates more donations. While the amounts were small, the frequency was high. Donations ranged from 10 points to several hundred points. However, the number of viewers had not increased significantly. Viewers, 8101, 8,000. It was a considerable number, but still far from reaching 10,000 again. I'll need to continue the raid to hit 10,000 viewers again. The rest period had been substantial. His condition and stamina were fully restored. This would suffice. As Suyuk got up and began to move, the atmosphere in the chat shifted from casual interaction to anticipation. Is he going now? Finally setting off. Let's raid like crazy. Step, step. Suyuk's footsteps echoed in the cave. There were no more annoying leeches. Suyuk continued the raid, hunting the monsters that appeared. Sizzle. Boom. He unleashed lightning bolts and activated his magic sword. The deeper he went, the more numerous and powerful the monsters became. I heard the difficulty was high, but, after several more hunts, Suyuk understood why the Thunder Cave had such a notorious reputation. Why is something like this on the 3rd floor? No matter how he thought about it, this was not a dungeon fit for the 3rd floor. It was only due to Schneider's exceptional abilities that any progress had been made. Without him, no one would have dared to raid it. This dungeon was indeed unusual, which made it all the more intriguing. Schneider said it was up ahead. As he spoke less and continued the hunt, delving deeper into the cave, he finally saw it. There it is. Not far off, the next stage of the cave came into view. A gate, a rather large and heavy stone door, unadorned and simply marking the midpoint of the dungeon. The first step in raiding the Thunder Cave is the hunt. Nothing special about it. Just kill all the monsters you encounter, including the lightning wolves. Just as Schneider had said. So far, the Thunder Cave's challenges, irrespective of difficulty, were straightforward. A typical dungeon setup. The approach changed starting from behind that door. I got up to that point pretty quickly as well. Took about 3 years. And then I faced that door. The door. Yes. And that's when I realized the real Thunder Cave begins beyond it. Suyuk approached the door and extended his hand. Thud. While it was quite heavy, it wasn't something a player who had reached the 3rd floor couldn't budge. Suyuk pushed the door open and stepped inside. You have entered Thunder's first chamber. From there on, you only need one person. Well, you plan to solo this anyway, so it doesn't matter for you. The trial of Thunder begins. The door opened, revealing the interior. Brighter than the path he had come through. The inside was so brightly illuminated, it hardly seemed like a cave. As he read the message, Suyuk shifted his gaze to the walls. Just as he had been told. The walls were covered with countless frescoes. It took me over 5 years to get through there. Looking at the frescoes, Suyuk recalled Schneider's words. How long will it take you? Russell. The paintings began to move as if they were alive. In that instant, Suyuk, who had been slowly observing the inside of the door, fully stepped into the chamber. Determining the eligibility for Thunder. Chapter 68. In the Thunder Cave, an unseen force flows. Many referred to this force as the power of lightning. Some called it lightning. And people often said, aren't they the same thing? Not exactly wrong. The essence of thunder is the sound of a lightning strike. Sound is a part of lightning. Ultimately, both are lightning. So if people asked whether the hidden rewards in the Thunder Cave were related to his own lightning powers, no one knows for sure. Just because it's the same elemental power doesn't mean the skills are identical. Even among lightning-related skills, there are countless variations. While the lightning Suyuk used was a prominent example, there were innumerable other lightning attributes. What people were really curious about was one thing. Could Suyuk obtain the same lightning that's his trademark within the Thunder Cave? Suyuk continued walking through the cave. Meanwhile, his eyes scanned the frescoes painted on the walls. What are those drawings? Just looks like a bunch of lines? They're too thick to just be lines. The yellow-painted frescoes on the walls were hard to decipher at a glance. If he hadn't heard about the frescoes from Schneider beforehand, Suyuk might not have recognized them immediately. On my first attempt, I ignored the frescoes. When I heard about the evaluation of Thunder qualifications, I was too tense, expecting some kind of trial. Qualification of Thunder. The message didn't specify how this qualification would be evaluated. It only mentioned the presence or absence of such an evaluation. But ignoring those frescoes was a mistake. Thud. His steps halted at one particular spot. His gaze fixed on a section of the fresco. Found it. Did that just move? A sharp-eyed viewer noticed the subtle change. It was a minuscule shift, yet they caught it. Squirm. The fresco began to move slightly. As the movement grew more noticeable, other viewers picked up on it as well. Is that a dragon? A dragon? Looks like it. The part in front of Suyuk looks like an eye. So those lines are its body? In no way, never saw that coming. The frescoes started to move. Soon, the drawings on the wall sprang to life and emerged. A tail, a thick body, scales shimmering in golden light. Sizzle, rumble, rumble. Amidst thunder and lightning, the dragon soared to the ceiling of the cave. That creature's role is similar to the wolf warrior you encountered in the starting dungeon. Proving your qualification for thunder means gaining its recognition. Gazing up at the dragon in the air, Suyuk recalled Schneider's words. But there's one significant difference. A difference. Lee Suyuk, you defeated the wolf warrior, didn't you? As if you didn't need its recognition. Schneider had evidently studied Suyuk quite thoroughly. Moreover, they had directly clashed in the recent tournament just a few days prior. Ignoring Suyuk would be like spitting in his own face, something Schneider was well aware of. Even so. But this one is different, he had said firmly. Don't even think about defeating it. That is absolutely impossible. Indeed, once you see it, you won't even consider it. As Schneider had predicted. Sizzle. Boom. The size of the dragon emerging from the fresco filled the cave's interior. His entire body tingled. There was no mistaking the dragon's formidable presence. Don't even think about defeating it like the wolf warrior? Who do they think I am? It was similar to the wolf warrior. That creature, too, was designed not to be defeated. But there had been ways to deal with the wolf warrior. Of course, that was because Suyuk was Lee Suyuk. Nonetheless, this dragon was on a completely different level. Defeating it was impossible. A voice resonated throughout the cave. Suyuk replied to the dragon's inquiry. Yes. Yes. So cocky lol. Dragon. Oh, okay. Can't afford to show weakness for real. Viewers thought Suyuk's response was cocky, but they didn't understand. Suyuk had encountered dragons multiple times during his ascent of the tower. Dragons don't have a concept of formal or informal speech. Their notion of etiquette is practically non-existent. For them, communication was purely about conveying information. Their posture didn't matter. What mattered was ensuring that his words didn't offend the dragon. The dragon lowered itself, beginning to fly. Its eyes, gleaming like embedded jewels, descended before Suyuk. What is it saying now? Is this wolf warrior too? Why do these creatures like Lee Suyuk so much? Suyuk felt a bit awkward in response to his viewers' complaints. This was different from what Schneider had told him. The ways the dragon demands proof vary each time. But not every one of my dozens of experiences was unique. For example, there are various types: enduring electrocution, facing and overcoming absolute terror with all senses blocked, or simply fighting summoned monsters. Tell me more. Suyuk had grilled Schneider about the dragon's trials in detail. Excluding the final stage of the Thunder Cave, the success of the raid depended on the type of trial he faced here. But then, pouch. By pouch, the dragon was referring to the player's inventory. And there was only one item in his inventory that could interest the dragon. Something far more valuable than the bread and jerky he had for sustenance. Suyuk slowly took out the yellow, gleaming orb. The dragon moved closer, examining it closely. And what changes because of that? Hearing this, Suyuk wondered if the Thunder Cave was an extension of the lightning trials. A possessor of lightning. And someone who had passed all the lightning trials to obtain the heart of the lightning. The Thunder Cave awaited a player who fulfilled these conditions. There are others who possess this, surely? Suyuk was subtly referring to Schneider. Having undertaken countless challenges, Schneider had, at some point, obtained the Thunder imprint against incredible odds. But Schneider hadn't mentioned such a reaction from the dragon. If it had happened, he would have certainly talked about it. This meant the difference between Schneider and himself was clear. Is it because I have lightning? Or the heart of the lightning? Maybe both. Whether this was a blessing or a curse was still unclear. Nothing definitive had been revealed. One thing was certain. This won't be an ordinary trial. The information Schneider provided might turn out to be useless. Schneider had never mentioned entering the Thunder Cave by opening the gate. The dragon spoke, gazing down at the Thunder imprint in Suyuk's hand. I have to swallow this? Suyuk looked down at the thunder imprint with eyes widened in surprise at the simplicity of the trial. On the surface, it appeared to be nothing more than a shiny, seemingly useless item. And now he had to swallow it? You can actually eat that? I heard it's used as a material for crafting items. Suyuk was thinking of selling it for a fortune. Now he's screwed, lol. His points are gonna tank, lol. The viewers thought Suyuk was hesitating because he was reluctant to waste his points. And they were right. This thing is worth so much. His mind really had fixated on the points. His first thought in this situation was how much the thunder imprint was worth. With this, he could potentially raise the level of his selfish sacrifice skill by several stages. On the other hand, what changes if I eat it? The outcome of consuming it was unknown. It was a gamble. A thunder imprint. Grade. A crystal left after a thunderstorm. Its use is unknown. It may contain immense power or none at all. The description seemed more like a riddle. The grade was unspecified. The description was vague and uninformative. Its use was unknown, and it was unclear whether it contained any power. Despite this, the item fetched high prices in the market due to its value as a material item. When used in crafting, it grants a lightning attribute and significant power. Many players eagerly sought this item. So, without finding any special use for it, Suyuk intended to sell it after the raid. And now he had to eat it. Eat it. Eat it. Eat it. Do it. Do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it. Even the viewers were united in their chants. Adjusting his microphone, Suyuk sighed. Do I really have to eat this? Of course, lol. Come on, just do it, lol. Lucky ones? Nope. Not you. Finally, Suyuk gets tripped up. Why did it feel like he had become the villain? Apparently, this was a moment when the viewers were united in trolling their streamer. You know how much this is worth. Oh. If you eat it, I'll donate 10 points. Big smiley face. I'll give a mission. 100 points worth. Big smiley face. Today, Suyuk eats a thunder crystal. No. This won't do. Reading the chat only seemed to aggravate him further. Suyuk sighed once more, adjusting his microphone. He glanced again at the thunder imprint, lost in thought. It's a gamble worth taking. The thunder imprint held immense power. Its utility as a material item had already proven that. Above all, successfully completing the trial always guaranteed players a significant reward. The question was whether that reward would surpass the value of the thunder imprint. Anyway, the item itself wouldn't be entirely wasted. And more importantly, giving up isn't like me. No. Suyuk opened the bottom part of his mask and slowly brought the thunder imprint to his mouth. It's not like Lee Suyuk. He knew the potential loss was substantial if he failed. But to neglect the trial for points was equally unlike him. More than anyone, being true to himself, Lee Suyuk, was his stream's motto. And, fundamentally, he really was Lee Suyuk. Be myself. With a swift motion, he placed the yellow crystal in his mouth. Crunch. He bit down on the thunder imprint, shattering it with his teeth. Gulp. He swallowed. You have consumed the thunder imprint. The trial of thunder begins within your body. Chapter 69. On the screen Hyang was watching. The dragon's words made her frown while munching on a snack. Is that crazy creature serious? Do you know how much that's worth? The item in question was the thunder imprint, a highly rare and valuable material item worth a fortune. Obtaining it was akin to earning the points that even major streamers would need to work for months to accumulate. Yet, the dragon was urging Suyuk to swallow it. Ugh! If that wretched worm were in front of me, I'd just... Hyang clenched her fist and swung it through the air in frustration. She genuinely felt like socking the dragon if it were right before her eyes. Buzz. Just then, her kit buzzed again. In the middle of an important scene, Hyang's expression quickly darkened. If it were John Dale, she would have ignored it and carried on. But the caller was someone different this time. Hello, Cheon Riang. She answered with a slightly trembling voice. On the other end, Cheon Riang's voice was its usual calm self. Yeah, I think I'll be arriving soon. Really? Already? Ah, it's closer from there, I guess. Of course. It's nearer than the third floor. Although Cheon Riang replied casually, An Hyang hesitated, which was unusual for her. It was Cheon Riang, after all. A childhood friend, practically a sibling since they were kids. Talking to Cheon Riang felt different, awkward for a reason she couldn't quite grasp. And that reason was probably, hey,
I'm sorry.
truly, guilt. She felt guilty about asking him, knowing he wouldn't be able to refuse. Saying she'd call off the bet was just an excuse. That meant nothing compared to this task. Still, just keep your promise. Don't ask for any more favors later. Okay? Cheon Riang joked, fully aware of the situation. I called just to say that. Don't back out later. You know I'm broke, right? An Hyang nodded, though he couldn't see her. She wondered why he had to call just to say something he didn't need to mention. He was subtly telling her, I'm doing this because I'm truly okay with it, so don't feel guilty. It's not your fault. Okay, I'm hanging up now. Keep monitoring Lee Suyuk's stream. Click. He dropped the call without waiting for her response, probably in a hurry. As the phone clicked off, the screen and sound switched back to the stream. Suyuk, swallowing the thunder imprint, didn't even register with her distracted state. Asterisk. Walls as high as fortresses and structures reaching the sky. Returning to his hometown, Murim, Cheon Riang paused to take a deep breath. Why did I come back here? He knew the reason despite his words. A few spoken words. That's why he had come back. His steps felt heavy. It wasn't as if he had walked the whole way. He had ridden in a carriage. I talked big, but he suddenly regretted his bold declaration. Maybe I should have just said I couldn't do it. But having committed to it, there was no turning back. He just needed a bit more time to gather his resolve. Ha! Step. Despite his efforts, his legs refused to move, so Cheon Riang sought an excuse. I suppose I won't be late if I have just one plate of dumplings, right? Truly, he didn't want to do it. Asterisk. Gulp. The thunder imprint went down his throat. You have consumed the thunder imprint. The trial of thunder begins within your body. Boom! The sound of thunder echoed, but only Suyuk could hear it. Instinctively, he knew. This thunder was for him alone. Ugh! Thud! The strength left his body, and he fell to his knees. The moment he swallowed the thunder imprint, thunder surged through his throat, stomach, and spread throughout his entire body. In the blink of an eye, he felt the crackling sensation of electricity spreading through him. Sizzle! Electricity burst from his body, escaping through his skin. The pain was intense. His body burned, and he trembled from the shock. The painful reality was that he had relied too heavily on selfish sacrifice. This doesn't apply to selfish sacrifice. The effects of selfish sacrifice increased resistance to self-sacrificial skills. In other words, it only resisted skills that consume stamina to increase power, like the magic sword or lightning, but it didn't block all damage. Despite pouring points into leveling up selfish sacrifice, it offered no help in this situation. There was one thing resisting the pain. Heart of the Lightning resists the thunder imprint. Resisted status effect, electrocution, the heart of the lightning. But this is sizzle. Suyuk's body recognized the thunder's power rampaging through him as an intruder. This is no joke. The thunder imprint was a concentrated item designed to prevent intruders from entering the thunder cave. Countless players had tried to break through the thunder gate to enter the cave, but none had succeeded. This meant an immense force resided here. The only saving grace was that the heart of the lightning prevented electrocution. Had he been electrocuted, his body would have been paralyzed, and he would have lost consciousness, unable to resist this power. Stay focused. As long as he could maintain his focus, he could figure out the next step. They said it contains the power of lightning. Feeling the force rampaging inside him, Suyuk widened his eyes. Let's see who wins. SSS. SSSS. The thunder imprint melted and spread throughout his body. The pain intensified, but so did the benefits. The thunder imprint is being absorbed into your body. Magic increased by 1. Fatigue increased. Fatigue has reached 67. With each stat increase, the fatigue intensified. As the damage accumulated, the pain didn't merely become familiar. It worsened. However, as long as I endure this, it won't be in vain. Sizzle. Boom. The deeper the pain and the louder the thunder in his ears, the more Suyuk smiled. It might seem masochistic, but mental fortitude was one of his greatest strengths. Enduring was one of the things he did best. Magic increased by 1. Fatigue has reached 73. How many increases had it been already? 4? No, 5. His focus on enduring the pain made it hard to keep track. He would need to check his stat screen later for the details. But of course, that's assuming I survive this. Suyuk glanced at the golden-scaled dragon hovering above him. It seemed to be watching him with a detached curiosity, like observing a bear in a zoo. I will endure, no matter what. Gritting his teeth. Failing this trial would mean wasting the precious thunder imprint. Moreover, he would have to accumulate accomplishments again and achieve a rank mercenary status to retry the Thunder Cave, a cumbersome process. That's out of the question. Wasting both points and time was unacceptable. Thinking of going through that ordeal again gave him a renewed sense of determination. But, SCZ. Magic increased by 1. Fatigue has reached 81. No matter how strong his mental fortitude, there were physical limits. Thanks to the heart of the lightning, he could barely endure. But Suyuk's body was reaching its breaking point. Realizing this, he decided to change his approach. I need another method. Rising stats were good. But this wasn't the same as breaking through meridians or unblocking energy channels. It was merely an infusion, like forcing air into a balloon. If his body couldn't withstand it, it would burst. So merely enjoying the stat boosts wouldn't suffice. Dying here would scatter these stats into nothingness. I need another way. He racked his brain. Simply persevering through sheer mental will was not enough. There were 2 viable options. Although it was a pity, he might have to release the energy outside somehow. Otherwise, maybe I was wrong to think I had to endure this physically. No matter how daunting the Thunder Cave was, expecting someone to merely endure it physically would be unreasonable. Though the challenges in the tower varied in difficulty, they were never completely impossible. This meant that it's not about enduring physically. Sizzle, sizzle. With lightning crackling around him, Suyuk clashed the thunder imprint's energy with the lightning within him. Boom, rumble. The 2 energies collided, and suddenly, the raging thunderous energy began to concentrate in one direction within his body. The previously wild energy finally found a path. At the end of this path was a concentrated mass of lightning located near the top of Suyuk's abdomen. I should have directed it here from the start. He had gained quite a few stats, but it had also inflicted considerable damage on his body. Using lightning, Suyuk guided the energy slowly toward one side. The immense movement of energy intensified his focus, making time feel slower. If it strays off course, it's over. I can't endure with this level of fatigue. Releasing the energy outside was an option, but he didn't want to make a cowardly choice. More importantly, missing out on this opportunity wasn't an option. Forerunners in the ranking, 20 years. Blue Zone, Kim Il-soo. It wasn't enough to merely follow. To climb higher and faster, he couldn't always choose the safe and comfortable path. Come here. Sizzle. He directed his will towards the rampaging energy. This way, continuing to direct it, but it didn't go as smoothly as he hoped. Focus heightened to its peak. Though he had found the method, he hadn't yet reached the solution. He was close but not quite there. To close that gap, a more drastic measure was necessary. For instance, this seems insane, but this whole trial had been insane from the start. Swish! From his inventory, Suyuk retrieved the small, gleaming yellow gem and grasped it in his hand. A heart, they called it. There had been something nagging at him. Heart of the Lightning. Grade, unique, growth. Requirements. Non transferable, bound. Unique grade. No usage restrictions. A bound, non-transferable item. The part that puzzled Suyuk was the usage restrictions listed. It's not just something to possess. It's an item meant to be worn. With his mouth dry as a bone, Suyuk slowly brought the heart of the lightning to his mouth. If not, well, it'll come out one way or another. Gulp, as the yellow gem slid down his throat. You have equipped the heart of the lightning. The awaited message appeared. Tails Corner. Equip by eating. Chapter 70. The dragon that hovered above Suyuk began to fade. Suyuk, who had swallowed the yellow gem, seemed to lose consciousness, his eyes rolling back as his head tilted. The dragon's form grew faint right after Suyuk swallowed the heart of the lightning. Even as the dragon's image blurred, the fresco on the wall did not return. Its purpose fulfilled, now it was time for it to ascend. Having consumed the heart of the lightning, Suyuk's ascent would be different. Although this new bearer wasn't as exceptional, he possessed something the last one didn't. The heart of the lightning, an essential item for humans to wield the power of lightning, akin to a divine weapon's antithesis. Though it wasn't fully complete, being still in its early stages, there was room to cultivate the remaining aspects. The dragon's form vanished completely, dispersed like golden mirages, leaving Suyuk half-conscious, sitting on the floor. As Suyuk struggled to stay conscious, a long-awaited message appeared before his eyes. The skill rank of lightning has increased to S-, and with that, thud, Suyuk's body collapsed to the ground. Asterisk. Schneider, having entered through the door, couldn't hide his astonishment. What is this? The room seemed different, and it didn't take him long to identify the change. It's gone. The murals. The yellow lines that had been painted on the wall. The fresco of the thunder dragon that should have been there to prepare the trial was nowhere to be seen. What had happened? After thoroughly searching the room, Schneider had no choice but to accept that the dragon had disappeared. Finally, Schneider called the others inside. This finished rather quickly, didn't it? Schneider had spent around 30 minutes searching for the dragon. That time was relatively fast. Moreover, Schneider appeared unscathed, with no signs of injury or burns. Don Zhao had assumed Schneider would grit his teeth and push through another trial. But it's gone. What? The dragon is gone. Look. Schneider pointed to the walls of the room. The interior walls looked no different than those in the other parts of the cave. Whether before or after the trial, the murals of the endlessly long dragon had always been there. But now, it's really gone? Schneider had passed the dragon's trial multiple times, but never had the murals disappeared like this. Did you do this, Schneider? I didn't even start the trial. Then, there's another one besides us inside the cave, isn't there? No way. The Thunder Cave was interconnected. According to Schneider, the dragon's mural extended from here to the Conrad Kingdom side. This meant the trial could also be taken from the other side. Yes, from the Thunder Chamber onwards, there's no distinction between Odman and Conrad. They already passed through here. That's what it seems. Wasn't it a solo challenge? How could they already? Never mind that. Why did the dragon disappear? Confounded. Don Zhao's words tumbled out incoherently, and Paul Ryman interjected. Is this the time to debate that? Paul marched towards Schneider. If Li Suyuk has already passed through here, we need to hurry after him. Do you want to let him take all the Thunder Cave's rewards? That wouldn't be so bad either. What? Do you really think I'm here just for some cheap rewards? Paul Ryman was left speechless by Schneider's unexpected question. Theoretically, he could answer. Of course, that's why everyone is here. Isn't it obvious? But if asked whether Schneider fell into that category, Paul Ryman couldn't confidently say yes. Schneider was peculiarly obsessed with the Thunder Cave. Not all players could fixate on one goal like he did. I've faced countless failures, but finally, something's different. Someone other than me is nearing the end of the Thunder Cave. Schneider spoke, barely containing his excitement. So I'm warning you, don't mess with me. I feel like I could explode with joy right now. Sure, that seems wise. Seeing Schneider on the verge of exploding, Paul Ryman cautiously stepped back. Feeling somewhat sorry for Paul Ryman's submissive retreat, Don Zhao glanced at him and spoke. No need to worry too much. What do you mean, don't worry? I faced him in a tournament, you know? I got crushed, but still. And, even if there were two of him, the next part would be difficult. Paul Ryman frowned at Don Zhao's confident words. Doesn't that imply even Schneider would find it difficult? Even if there were two of him? Well, that's... Catching Schneider's eye, Don Zhao hesitated. Yes, that's what it means. Schneider interjected, answering in Don Zhao's stead and downplaying his own abilities. Even if there were two or maybe even three of me, it might still be challenging. Step, step. Saying this, Schneider began to move again. So stay alert. If you want to bask in the glory of conquering the Thunder Cave, you have to survive first. Why, yeah, sure. Paul Ryman's voice trembled in response. Schneider's demeanor had shifted. It had changed when they initially arrived at the Thunder Cave, but now it felt even more intense. Finally, we're here. Step, step. From the moment he confirmed the dragon's disappearance, Schneider had been riding a high. It's disappointing that I couldn't handle everything myself. But, step, step, his pace quickened. Trusting that guy wasn't a bad decision. Schneider, along with his team, walked for quite a while. After over 30 minutes of following the long, winding cave, a bend in the path shaped like a backwards L revealed another door. Turn here and we end up on the Conrad Kingdom side. Beyond this door is the final stretch of the Thunder Cave that we've confirmed. It looks like Lee Suyuk came through from that side. Rather fixated on Lee Suyuk, Paul Ryman glanced toward the direction of the Conrad Kingdom rather than at the newly revealed door. Then he turned his gaze to the massive iron door covered in dust. He might be beyond this door right now. Probably. He had to be. The key to this raid was in his hands. Thinking this, Schneider reached forward. Creak. The rusty metal hinges groaned as the door opened. Leading the group, Schneider entered, revealing a stairway standing alone, reaching high into the cavern. An exalted throne? A stairway with seemingly 1,000 steps. The cave's ceiling was artfully raised to accommodate it. Judging by the structure, the stairway, and the throne at the top, it was clear. The Thunder Cave was no naturally occurring dungeon. It was more like an artificial construct, deliberately created. You have entered Thunder's second chamber. Sit on the throne. The trial of the second chamber was straightforward. Sit on the throne before you. The stairs were high and might tire your legs, but even an ordinary person could accomplish this. This feels ominous. Because of this simplicity, Paul Ryman felt a growing sense of unease. Players preferred trials that were not merely easy but those that presented a reasonable challenge, achievable with effort. When a trial appeared overly easy, it usually meant one of two things. Either the rewards were meager, or there was an unseen complication. In this case, it was undoubtedly the latter. Why? There's no way he couldn't move forward because he couldn't climb those stairs. Paul Ryman thought as he glanced at Schneider's back. Schneider stood motionless, staring ahead. After a moment, he spoke in a hushed tone, his words partially omitted yet clear. Not here. What? What's not here? Lee Suyuk. It seemed Schneider had been searching for Lee Suyuk. Paul Ryman didn't think much of it. Well, maybe he's already sat in that chair and moved on. Just because Lee Suyuk was ahead didn't mean he was only one step ahead. He could be 2 steps or even 3 or 4 steps further along. Looks like this might be another path Lee Suyuk has already passed. But that was a naive assumption, born of Paul Ryman's lack of understanding of the Thunder Cave. That's not possible. How can you be so sure? To claim that throne. Step. As Schneider took a single step towards the throne. Flash. Boom. A thunderous sound bolted down with a yellow flash from the cave ceiling. You have encroached upon the throne's domain. Thunder Knight appears. You have to defeat that. Crackle, crackle. With the sound of thunder, what descended from the ceiling of the cave was a knight clad in full plate mail, with remnants of electricity coursing through his body. He stood at the foot of the stairs, his face obscured by his helmet, and gripped an ancient, worn-out sword in his hand. It was as if he was declaring that no one would ascend these steps without first overcoming him. The Thunder Knight? A boss mob? Why is there a human boss? Human-shaped monsters were rare. Especially in these lower levels, such cases were almost unheard of. The startled players hesitated. The Thunder Knight radiated a golden glow from his eyes, intimidating the players with sheer presence. That was him. Facing the knight, Schneider spoke with a voice tinged with despair. The insurmountable wall I encountered here. Not 10 years, but 20. Or perhaps he had wondered if he would ever overcome this mighty knight, even if he dedicated his entire life. The guardian of the Thunder Cave. A few months ago, Schneider had finally learned the knight's name from a source. Furious. Tails Corner. Furious is back as a boss. Chapter 71. Furious. It had been less than half a year since Schneider first heard that name. A name given out of respect by the Thunder Knight, acknowledging a warrior who had reached a certain pinnacle. Ironically, Schneider heard the name again in a clipped stream video featuring Lee Soo-yuk on players. Please help us. We beg you. Savior. You've awakened. Yes, ask me anything. He could hardly believe what he saw. Could this really be the same person? The Thunder Knight he knew and the Furious from Lee Soo-yuk's stream just didn't seem like the same individual. But it's not a common name. It seems too much of a coincidence, especially given the similar nature of the trials. It was possible the two Furiouses were the same person. No, it was highly likely. Thus, Schneider asked Soo-yuk about the knight named Furious on that night in the tavern. Furious? Ah, you mean Lozarius. Lozarius. That's what we called him on our stream. But why do you ask? That monstrous being gets called Lozarius on your stream. It was so funny that Schneider felt his drunkenness dissipate. To him, Furious was a figure of despair, yet on Lee Soo-yuk's stream he was treated like a minor character. Laughing for a while, Schneider refilled his empty cup to regain his lost intoxication before explaining more about the Thunder Knight. And that guy introduced himself as Furious. A different person with the same name. Doesn't seem likely. No, better not to think that. Yeah, considering both trials involve lightning, it's better to think they're the same. Suho's reaction was one of mild surprise. That guy is the final boss there. Huh? I'm not certain he's the final boss. There might be more to his story. Then how come I only know about it now? Surely I'm not the only one who knows Furious. Originally, Furious was a character appearing in the middle stages of the lightning trials. Even Suho's viewers knew that Furious ended up dead, indicating they were well-versed in the lightning trials. Even if many players have met Furious, I'm the only one who knows the Thunder Knight's name. Unfortunately, I didn't know the name Furious. The Thunder Knight had revealed his name only when Schneider's party was wiped out, leaving Schneider alone. And though Schneider remembered the knight's name, he never mentioned it to anyone. Anyway, there's definitely a connection between this Thunder Knight and your lightning. So, it should have been him here, not me. Schneider frowned at the sight of the Thunder Knight ahead. Lee Soo-yuk had certainly passed through the first chamber's trial before them. So why wasn't he here? Did he fail? Right after passing the trial. If he could watch the stream, his curiosity could be eased. But now, he also had to face his trial, making it impossible to check the stream. Step. Furious approached Schneider and his team. Looking directly at Schneider, standing at the front, Furious spoke. I expected you would come again. Schneider had indeed challenged the Thunder Cave countless times. Schneider had clashed with Furious several times, and every time it ended in Schneider's defeat. However, the Thunder Knight seemed certain that Schneider would not give up so easily. But the result will be the same. You can't pass through here with just sheer will. I know. You're not waiting for me, are you? It's good that you remember. Those words drove Schneider into despair. No matter how many times you try, it will be useless. The one I'm waiting for isn't you. Schneider felt an indescribable emptiness upon hearing those words. He had become so obsessed with the Thunder Cave that he thought it was his destiny. Perhaps he even felt that the Thunder Cave was calling out to him. But, according to Furious, the Thunder Cave was not waiting for him after all. Who or what Furious was waiting for remained a mystery, but it was clear that it wasn't him, and that was the very reason he couldn't pass through this place. Then, the person you are waiting for hasn't arrived yet? No, they haven't. Is that so? Schneider closed his eyes at those words. He had held onto a sliver of hope, but it seemed that Lee Suyuk had not come after all. Nothing has changed. He had hoped that things would be different after seeing the mural of the Lost Dragon. With a sharp sound, Schneider opened his eyes again and pointed his spear forward. In that case, he would just have to challenge it with all his might once more. And at that moment, surround him, everyone. With Paul Ryman's shout, about 10 players began to encircle Furious. It was the most basic tactic used when hunting a single player. But sometimes, there are opponents whom tactics cannot reach. Wait, if you step forward like that first. Before the words were even finished. Flash. Furious's old sword flashed, drawing a yellow line. Boom! With the sound of thunder, the sword swung. In the blink of an eye, a hole was punched in the formation encircling Furious. The wave of electricity emitted from the sword swept away 3 players. Furious's sword then aimed at the center of the formation where Paul Ryman was. Paul Ryman instinctively used a skill. The sword in his hand grew larger and heavier. Paul Ryman's enlarged sword, easily 3 times his size, clashed with Furious's old, chipped sword. Clang! A heavy, clear sound reverberated in all directions. It was the sound of the oversized sword and the chipped sword colliding. The result was crack, crack. Cracks rapidly formed on Paul Ryman's sword. You're a bit better than the previous 3. A bit. Paul Ryman's eyes widened in surprise. Who was he? He was the hidden card sent by Blue Zone to conquer the Thunder Cave in place of Schneider. Yet he was only a bit better than the 3 who went before him, while Paul Ryman was still bewildered by Furious's comment. Clang! Paul Ryman's sword finally broke, and Furious's sword flew towards his neck. I'm going to die. Thunk! Contrary to his expectation that his head would be severed, sparks flew before his eyes. A spear intervened just in time. Schneider, exuding a blue aura, had blocked Furious's sword. Clang, crack, and as if by a tacit agreement, they both began clashing spear and sword. Clang. Schneider's spear moved rapidly, tracing countless lines. Furious's sword emitted golden electricity, intertwining with the movements. Although it lasted only a few seconds, Paul Ryman, alternating glances between his broken sword and the battle, felt a sense of powerlessness for the first time in his life. This is Oma Schneider. He had only heard rumors. He hadn't participated in the competition on the 3rd floor, so he never had the chance to witness his skills firsthand. Perhaps on some level he had thought that way. Isn't he just a loser struggling on the 3rd floor? But, do you really think the guild sent you because they didn't trust the team leader? Don Zhao knew from the start why Paul Ryman had joined the team. No. You were just meant to be a stimulant, to provoke the team leader's pride and push the team's tension higher. I'm a stimulant? Did you think you were anything else? His pride was hurt, but despite that, he couldn't say anything because of the spectacle unfolding before his eyes. Schneider and Furious. Their battle seemed to take place in a different dimension altogether. Boom! Buzz! Clang! The yellow electricity clashing with the spear was blinding. It felt like stepping into that space, even for a moment, would tear his body apart. It was on another level. It made him question whether they were truly players of the 3rd floor and whether Furious was a boss from the 3rd floor. Watching a fight he couldn't dare to interrupt. Paul Ryman thought of someone who would be on the same level as those two. Did someone like Lee Soo-yuk actually defeat such a guy? Lee Soo-yuk, a streamer who suddenly emerged one day and began making a name for himself. What kind of monster could he be? Boom! Electricity surged once more from the tip of Furious's sword. Crack! The electricity shattered the cave walls, pushing Schneider back. Grimacing from the impact, he flew backward, clutching his spear. Ugh! Throb! His hands, gripping the spear, trembled uncontrollably. Even though he tried to shield himself with magic, the electricity from Furious numbed his body. He could barely keep up with the speed, but the destructive power was on a different scale. How much longer can I hold out? It had only been about 3 minutes since the fight started. Last time, he collapsed after holding out for just this long. The only reason he could endure a bit longer this time was that he hadn't expended energy in the first room. Another 3 minutes? Or maybe 2. Buzz. He saw Furious's sword drawing a diagonal line. This time it wasn't aimed at him, but at his other comrades. This crazy. The reason he cursed wasn't anything else. It was because it was already too late by the time his body reacted. Boom! The electric wave from Furious's sword swept away more of his comrades. There was no way to dodge or block it. This was the result of his comrades trying to attack Furious to help Schneider. Of course. Thanks to that, Schneider's spear managed to get a bit closer to Furious. Buzz. Clang. When did he even turn his body? Furious's sword clashed with the spear. Then, Furious's sword smoothly slid along the shaft of the spear. Gasp! Gasping for breath, Schneider hurled himself backward. He managed to dodge a slash, but his stance was broken. Clang! Clang! Sear crack. Sword and spear collided. The spear wavered dangerously, and his hand shook violently as he gripped it. What kind of strength is this? If he let his guard down for even a moment, he felt like he would lose his grip on the spear in an instant. It was like flailing at the edge of a cliff. And that precarious feeling didn't last long. When Furious's old sword flashed one more time, boom! Thunk! With a loud clap of thunder, Schneider's spear was flung toward the ceiling of the cave. Furious's sword appeared right before his eyes. Is this the end again? Schneider, as always, thought of the word failure. And at that moment, clang! With a resonant sound, something flew in and deflected Furious's sword. Ping! Tiding. A brief stillness settled in. Crackle. Schneider's gaze followed the yellow line that extended far away, towards the doorway of the second chamber they had entered. Standing there was the other conqueror of this place, the one he had been waiting for so desperately. Lee Soo-yuk. Chapter 72. Before Soo-yuk collapsed. Even in his dazed state, the dragon's voice was clear. Realize my ass. Everything the dragon said annoyed him, possibly because of the pain. Swallowing the heart of lightning had been an impulsive act driven by the thought that even if it was the wrong answer, he'd just crap it out anyway. After all, he wouldn't lose it because it had a non-tradable option. The dragon's voice gradually faded. Just as Soo-yuk's consciousness grew hazy to the point where he could no longer hear the loud voice. Is this my limit? Crackle. Crackle. Felt like electricity, not blood, was flowing through his body. He no longer listened to the dragon's voice. As curious as he was about what it was saying, he had other things to focus on now. Almost there. Crackle. Crack. The heart of lightning, positioned near his chest, was absorbing the remnants of the thunder. The recharged power began pounding like a real heart. The heart of lightning started distributing energy throughout his body. And at that moment, snap, something snapped in Soo-yuk's mind. The skill level of Lightning LV3 has increased. The skill level of Lightning LV4 has increased. You have acquired Lightning LV5. The skill rank of Lightning has risen to ***. His memory cut off halfway through. Judging by the fact that he was still inside the cave, it seemed he hadn't died. Did I pass out again? That was his first thought upon waking up. It wasn't hard to figure out how much time had passed. How long was I unconscious? About 30 minutes, I think. Exactly 32 minutes. Did he die again? For real, he's always dying, lol.
이또육.
It was a term he saw for the first time. What does itajuk mean? It means Lee Soo-yuk dies again. For real, itajuk is science, lol. But I didn't die? Did anyone say you really died? It just looks like you did, that's all. Stop dying, Lee Soo-yuk at. Soo-yuk scratched his head in embarrassment. It seemed like he really had passed out a lot. The fact that such a ridiculous nickname had been born among his viewers proved it. Still, he was relieved to see that a considerable number of viewers were still there. More than 5,000 viewers had stuck around watching him while he was unconscious. Sorry, everyone. You must have waited a long time. Just an apology? Is sorry supposed to be enough? Soo-yuk knew they were just teasing, but he did feel genuinely apologetic for just brushing it off. His pride also kicked in. If it happens again, he pondered for a moment what he could do. King of Stamina has donated 100 points. If you black out again, will you do a face reveal? Soo-yuk shook his head. That's a bit much. LOL.
Instant rejection, LOL.
The speed of that refusal is amazing, LOL. He's definitely ugly, I'm sure of it. There were some somewhat offensive misunderstandings mixed in, but it couldn't be helped. Not that it really matters. No one knew his face anyway. Despite that, he was reluctant to reveal it due to John Dale's advice. He said Soo-yuk's mysterious appeal comes from his hidden face. It was a reason he hadn't considered himself, but it made sense. After all, John Dale's job was analyzing streamers and viewers. It was best to heed the advice of an expert in this area. King of Stamina has donated 100 points, then collab with Mad Soo-yuk. Another donation message. Soo-yuk had seen Mad Soo-yuk streams a few times. Coincidentally, Mad Soo-yuk was also a top streamer under the same agency. Seriously, sending him to the destroyer, LOL. There's an assassin here. Oh. What kind of reaction is this? Isn't a collab a good thing? Mad Soo-yuk was a major streamer. His average viewer count easily exceeded 50,000, sometimes even 100,000. He was a star among streamers. Collaborating with Mad Soo-yuk seemed like a great opportunity. Then what was this reaction about? No need to hesitate. It was better than revealing his face. More importantly, the viewers seemed to want it. Soo-yuk nodded. All right, let's do that. Oh ho 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 ho. Are we going to see fake Soo-yuk on Mad's stream? LOL. No, we'll see Mad on fake Soo-yuk's stream. He's not quite at Mad's level yet. Give it time. The reaction wasn't bad. Quite a few viewers seemed to be looking forward to it. Among them, there were some comments mentioning terms like Destroyer King and other things he couldn't quite understand. I'll wrap up the chit-chat here. Soo-yuk stood up, his eyes shining once again. We haven't finished the raid yet, right? The raid wasn't over yet. This was the Thunder Cave, a dungeon that hadn't been conquered in decades, known to be impregnable. He couldn't let his guard down. Even he was at risk this time. How much fatigue have I recovered? Soo-yuk checked his status. Status window. Name, Lee Soo-yuk. Affiliation, Earth. Level, 37. Strength, 38. Agility, 34. Stamina, 36. +2. Focus, 31. Magic, 48. Fatigue, 71. Oh. Two things caught his attention. Fatigue level, 71. A considerably high number. No wonder his body felt exhausted. He wasn't in perfect condition. Of course, it wasn't so high that he couldn't fight, but still. The other surprise was something else. Magic is 48? The stat, which had been 36, had risen by a whopping 12 levels. It was almost burdensome. With most of his other stats lingering in the 30s, magic had nearly reached 50, causing serious imbalance. Moreover, the skill level of lightning had increased. He had gained too much. Meanwhile, his endurance hadn't improved, and his fatigue was high. This is good, but thinking about balance gave him a headache. With his magic stat surging ahead on its own, the destructive power might increase, but the sustainability could decrease. However, there was one thing he looked forward to. Heart of Lightning. Thump, thump, a small stone nestled near his heart. This stone, which felt almost like a real heart, was a tool for humans to handle thunder. Asterisk. Crackle, crackle. Heat flowed from Suyuk's fingertips after launching the spear. In the distance, he noticed Schneider's stunned face. I blocked it. Having deflected the knight's sword, Suyuk clicked his tongue in disappointment. He wanted to sever the arm holding the sword, not just deflect it. In the last moment, the knight twisted his sword to block the attack. He has excellent reflexes to react to a surprise attack. He's fast too. Was that really Furious? Images of Lozarius came to mind. Back then, he struggled to take down even a single giant. Now, Furious emitted an aura fierce enough to slay not just giants but even the leader of the giant tribe. Step. Suyuk approached Furious and Schneider, both of whom were eyeing him intently. Up until a moment ago, Furious, who had been fighting Schneider, now gave him no particular attention since Suyuk's arrival. Why are you so late? Schneider's reaction to Suyuk's arrival was ambiguous, not clearly expressing whether he was pleased or annoyed. I dozed off for a bit. Dozed off. Something like that. He didn't want to openly admit he had passed out, so he gave a roundabout answer. Schneider, tilting his head at the response, picked up the spear that had fallen to the ground and spoke. He's not an easy opponent. Seems that way. I'll keep my distance and support you from behind like before. I don't have. Crackle. Mid-sentence, Furious's sword flew towards Schneider's neck. Clang. He barely managed to block it with the shaft of his spear. If he had been a little slower to react, his head would have been taken off. But, crack, the strong impact caused a crack in the already worn spear shaft. Crackle, crackle. For some reason, Furious, who had never shown such power before, raised his sword once more. Boom! Ugh! His body trembled as a numbing sensation spread through his entire body. Both the spear and the hand holding it seemed precarious. Schneider had faced Furious several times before, but he had never experienced this level of output. Was I not the final opponent? Even without this extra strain, he was already exhausted. Clang. In the end, the spear broke. His eyes widened in shock as his frozen body refused to move. Stay back. Flash. Another surge of electricity burst forth. Clang. Furious's and Suyuk's lightning collided, scattering in all directions. Crackle. Crackle. The two swords clashed. The heavy sensation in both hands made Suyuk's eyes gleam. He couldn't hold back. He quickly realized that this was not an opponent against whom he could conserve his strength. Therefore, lightning is initiated. Heart of Lightning is activated. Selfish Sacrifice LV5 resists the damage from lightning. Now was the time to unleash his full power. Crackle. Electricity poured out from the tip of his sword. Thanks to his increased magic and the upgraded skill level, it was incomparable to before. The burden on his stamina would be significantly greater, but I can manage it. For some reason, the anticipated strain was not as severe as he had feared. Buzz. Suyuk's sword swung towards Furious. Furious met the attack head-on, showing no intention of dodging. Clang. Crackle. The two swords clashed, sending out bursts of electricity in all directions. Schneider, who was nearby, raised one arm to protect himself. Even the remnants of the scattered electricity were enough to put most players' lives at risk. Boom, boom. Clang. Each clash of the swords echoed with the sound of thunder, and the discharged electricity struck and shattered the cave walls. Schneider watched the battle between Suyuk and Furious with wide eyes. What happened in such a short time? It had only been a few days since he had fought Suyuk. Despite being taken down by a single strike of the lightning spear, Schneider had thought that he could put up a decent fight if they were to clash again. Even now, he was sure that belief wasn't entirely wrong. But still, his speed might be because of new shoes, but boom! A player capable of releasing such massive electricity couldn't be the same as any other player on the third floor. What did he obtain here? It felt like Suyuk had become a completely different person in that brief period. And Suyuk felt the same about himself. This feels new. Was it because of the heart of lightning within him? It felt different from simply using thunder as a skill. The sensation of being able to freely draw on the thunder circulating through his body like blood. And that feeling was not an illusion. Suddenly, the dragon's words came to mind. At the time, he had been too flustered to focus on anything but the noise. It really was a treasure. The difference between merely carrying it and using it properly was this significant. What would it be like if he were in perfect condition? How much thunder could he unleash then? As this anticipation made him increasingly excited. It really is you, Furious, who had retreated a distance, spoke with glowing eyes from within his helmet. It's been a while, Savior. Chapter 73. Just as tensions were peaking, the fight was interrupted. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, Suyuk lowered his sword, which he had been amping up with lightning. He wasn't a child who could afford to get drunk on newfound power and lose control. I've heard the stories. Suyuk spoke while glancing briefly at Schneider. His gaze indicated to whom he had heard the stories from. Furious. Is that so? As Suyuk and Furious exchanged relaxed words, the surrounding players were left in bewilderment. Just moments ago, they were fighting fiercely, giving no room for interruption. Now, they were suddenly engaging in polite conversation, which was understandable. Lozarius recognized him. I believed in you. Now that he knows, will he step aside? Viewers were also fascinated by the new development. With his sword lowered, Suyuk started paying attention to the stream again. Viewers. 9,102. The viewer count had increased dramatically. Although it had dropped significantly while he was unconscious, many viewers were still interested in the conquest of Thunder Cave. Regardless of its level, Thunder Cave was a dungeon that Blue Zone had long invested in to obtain lightning. I'm glad you heard it. Clink. Furious removed his helmet and revealed his face. I'm not sure if you'll recognize me, but it's good to see you again, Savior. Oh wow. Yikes. What happened to his face? Dash. Furious's revealed face was far from pleasant. A long burn scar ran diagonally across his face, and his nose was badly mangled. Whatever accident he had endured left him in such a state. It was clear that, contrary to his words, it wasn't exactly a joyful situation for him to be greeting Suyuk. Where have you been all this time? Were you looking for me? Yes, I searched for you. Because you have the lightning. The person Furious had been waiting for. It was indeed Suyuk who held lightning. As a Thunder Knight, Furious had been waiting here for a very long time for his old savior. I thought you would come here someday, though I didn't expect you to look so young. Young? Despite the briefness of his words, Suyuk could sense the long passage of time in Furious's statement. Although Furious didn't appear significantly aged on the outside, the time he had been waiting for Suyuk seemed far greater than 5 or 10 years. How much time has passed since then? Well, you suddenly disappeared, and I thought it was strange. I see you are an otherworlder as well. Yes, I am. Time? I don't know. After over 100 years, I stopped counting. How is he over 100 years old with that face? High-ranking players don't age, right? Isn't it something like that? Oh, right, that's possible. Maybe he's cursed or something. High-ranking players typically halted aging and ceased to grow older. If Furious were such a ranker, it would make sense. However, in this case, it wasn't about the immortality of rankers. He's far from being a ranker. Though Furious's abilities far surpassed those of players on the third floor, he was nowhere close to the level of players who were called rankers. This meant that he had not aged or died for a different reason. More importantly, Wasn't the trial of thunder a repeatable virtual trial? How does he remember me then? It had only been about 10 days since Suyuk passed the trial of thunder. Yet, over 100 years had passed in this location's trial, and Furious remembered him. Was this predetermined from the start? Or had Suyuk's actions during the trial of thunder influenced the Thunder Cave? As his thoughts deepened, Furious spoke again. Since learning about the existence of otherworlders, I've wondered. Perhaps the savior who helped us back then was also an otherworlder. Were you disappointed?
No.
Furious shook his head. Even if you did not help us out of goodwill, it's a fact that we received help from you. That cannot be denied. What happened to the villagers? And what happened to you, Furious? The village eventually disappeared. I am the only survivor. As expected, the giants who attacked the village were just the beginning. Even though the trial ended, the threat to the village remained after Suyuk vanished. And to overcome that threat, Furious had to make a choice. I wanted to have power as strong as yours. So, I searched for the power you used. As I thought, Suyuk realized he was responsible for Furious's current state. I must have traveled for over 10 years. I came close to dying numerous times, and that's when my face became like this. Furious's eyes deepened as he recalled the past. Then I found this cave, and I found it. You mean the lightning? Yes. Furious's response caused a stir among those gathered around. Wow. No way it's true. Thunder was here too, lol. All those who doubted Blue Zone's efforts, come out, lol. As expected from Kim Il-soo, the chat was just as chaotic. Lightning. It was Suyuk's symbol and a skill coveted by all players. Until now, it was known that the only opportunity to obtain lightning was on the second floor. Now there was confirmation that lightning was also hidden in the Thunder Cave. It was real. If I could just get that. Shoo. Lower your voice. Greedy voices were heard from behind. Some were already preparing to stab Suyuk in the back. Regardless, Furious continued speaking. This power named lightning was what I desired. But to gain this power without the proper qualifications, I had to pay the price. Did you receive some kind of punishment? In a sense. Furious twisted the corners of his mouth into a smile. The price for a man without qualifications coveting great power. As he spoke, Furious touched the area around his eyes. Losing my sight and being trapped in this cave, waiting for you. His eyes glowed with a yellow hue. It seemed his sight was impaired. So, please. Clank. Lifting his worn-out sword, Furious spoke in a courteous voice. Please, pass over me. With those words, flash, Furious swung the raised sword forward. Boom! Lightning surged through Suyuk's body. Reacting wasn't difficult. The slow raising of the sword was practically an announcement of the attack. Though an enemy, Furious showed a form of respect toward Suyuk. No wonder Schneider couldn't handle him. Crackle! Crackle. Even though he blocked it, the impact was quite harsh. Furious's skills were undoubtedly way beyond Schneider's. And ordinarily it would apply to himself as well. Let's do this. His fatigue levels were high. He had plenty of magic but lacked stamina. What he needed now was a swift and decisive victory. Fortunately, lightning is initiated. With a magic stat of 48 and an S-rank thunder skill, Suyuk was ready to unleash considerable power. Crackle. Boom. The two swords clashed, creating a deafening thunder. A distinct space formed around Suyuk and Furious, preventing any other players from daring to intervene. Schneider was no exception. Both Suyuk and Furious weren't this strong before. Boom. Listening to the thunder and trembling at the lightning bursts throughout the cave. It seems Thunder Cave wasn't waiting for me. Crash. Crackle. Crackle. The thunder embedded in each sword repelled each other. The swords didn't clash but hovered in midair, vibrating. Sweat beaded on Suyuk's forehead. There's only one chance. If he had more stamina, things might be different. But continuing like this would just lead to him collapsing first. So, I can't miss this opportunity. Bang! His hand trembled as he kicked Furious in the chest. The distance gave him a brief respite. As he took a short breath, Suyuk's gaze shifted to Furious's foothold. He can't use his eyes anyway. This meant he relies on his senses. Furious could only read the presence around him. There was no other way. Crackle. Not giving him a chance to rest, Furious charged forward, lightning at his feet. There was no time to think. Suyuk moved his sword, searching for an opening. Bang, bang, bang.
Boom.
Swords clashed with the sound of thunder. Fatigue has reached 78. Fatigue has reached 79. Fatigue has... No need to rush. The rising fatigue only sharpened his focus. I will win. And then a piercing strike broke through. Whoosh! A spear came flying from afar. Crunch. Thunk. A spear pierced through Furious's arm. Naturally, Furious's attention shifted towards the direction the spear had come from. Even without sight, the instinct to turn towards a threat was a primal reaction for any living being. Schneider. The spear had been thrown with all his might by none other than Schneider. And in that brief moment of distraction, that was a useful move. Suyuk seized the opportunity. Fatigue has reached 81. Heart of Lightning is activated. Thump, thump. As fatigue increased, his heart pounded faster. It wasn't his real heart. Next to his heart was another, the Heart of Lightning. It beat harder and faster, boosting output. Boom! He kicked off the ground, accelerating. As Furious's attention refocused on Suyuk, he faced a wave of lightning. To counter the sudden surge in power, Furious too pushed himself to the limit. Even with one injured hand, clamp, Furious switched his sword to his other hand, wrapping it in thunder. I still have another hand. Boom! Thunder roared with a mighty swing of his sword. Confident in his strike, Furious's expression became puzzled. The blade met nothing. It neither split flesh and bone nor clashed with another weapon. Suyuk had been charging straight at him, yet now, the presence. He scanned the front, sides, and back. Suyuk's presence was nowhere to be found. Buzz, and then Suyuk reappeared, using Skywalk. Movement speed increased by 30% for 3 seconds. Can step on air for 3 seconds. Above Furious's head, Suyuk was inverted in mid-air, poised to strike downward with his sword. Clang. Chapter 74. Clang. With a burst of thunder, the sword swung. Schneider clearly heard the sound. Mixed within was the noise of flesh and bone being split. And then, the next moment, thud, thud. Furious's head fell to the ground. A moment of silence ensued. Suyuk's feet were still hovering in mid-air. What just happened? Schneider couldn't see clearly. Even from a distance, Suyuk's movements were too swift for the eye to follow. His speed had more than doubled compared to just a moment ago. Moreover, in the final moment, he moved through the air instead of on the ground. For Furious, who was up close, it must have seemed as though Suyuk had simply vanished into thin air. Is that even possible? For a player on the 3rd floor like me? Many players looked at Schneider with the same thought. How could a player on the 3rd floor exhibit such skills? But right now, Schneider himself was asking that question. That's how incredible Suyuk's performance had been. Suyuk had reached a level far beyond that of a 3rd floor monster player, Omar Schneider. Any lingering resentment Schneider had about losing the tournament vanished. With such skills, it was only natural Suyuk would win. Thump. After floating in the air for a while, Suyuk landed back on the ground. At the same time, he quietly exhaled within his mask. Phew! Suddenly, his legs lost strength. Thump, thump. His heart pounded rapidly, causing a painful sensation in his chest. Had he pushed his output too high? Or was it due to exhaustion? For a moment, his body felt utterly drained. Regardless, I did catch him. He glanced at Furious's head on the ground. He would likely find out what had happened to Furious next. After taking a moment to compose himself, Suyuk stood up. And at that moment, Whoosh! A large sword came flying from behind him. Buzz! Flattening his body to dodge the sword, Suyuk leaped forward. As he distanced himself and turned his head, he saw Paul Ryman, looking disappointed. Damn! Failing his surprise attack, Paul Ryman issued an order. Everyone attack! Don't give him any time to recover. He was well aware of the mechanics of lightning. The stronger Suyuks displayed abilities, the harsher the penalties caused by lightning. They couldn't give him any time to recover his stamina. Paul Ryman's assessment was quite accurate. However, you think I'm an easy target just because I'm tired? Suyuk was the one who fought to the end, even at a fatigue level of 90, and managed to take one of Kim Il-su's eyes. He had no intention of collapsing just because he was slightly exhausted. Let's go for the vulture kill. Vulture incoming. Swish. Suyuk leapt into the midst of the charging players. He moved through the stabbing blades and spears as if slashing throats as he went. Avoiding infernal skills sent his way, the players, out of sync, ended up hitting each other instead. His movements were fluid and without waste. Even without using lightning, Suyuk's skills were impeccable. Isn't he supposed to be exhausted? Thunk! Another player fell as Suyuk's sword pierced their throat. Paul Ryman gritted his teeth. No, he's definitely exhausted. The fact that he's not using lightning proves it. His guess was accurate, but his mistake was underestimating one fact. Even when exhausted, Suyuk was still Suyuk. To take him down, Paul Ryman glanced to the side. Schneider. Omar Schneider. He needed his help. What are you doing? Aren't you going to help? For some reason, Schneider was merely watching the fight. He showed no intention to help or interfere. He even had his arms crossed. I have no intention of getting involved. What? Paul Ryman was baffled by his firm response. No intention of getting involved? If things continued, Suyuk would conquer Thunder Cave. What about the reward? That belongs to him. The guild won't stand for this. I don't care. Schneider shrugged his shoulders. I joined Blue Zone just to get support for raiding Thunder Cave. Now that it's no longer my role, what does it matter if the guild kicks me out? With Schneider willing to give up even the guild, there were no persuasive words left to sway him. Damn it! It was clear Schneider would not intervene. Given that, there was only one option left. Suyuk! Raising his sword high, Paul Ryman called out Suyuk's name. His shout caused Suyuk and the players charging at him to halt. I have a proposal. A proposal? Join Blue Zone. If you do, we will yield all the rewards from Thunder Cave to you. It was a surprising offer. The rewards of Thunder Cave were already Suyuk's to claim. Such was evident. And knowing this, Paul Ryman continued his proposal. In addition, we'll offer you the treatment of a semi-ranker. This isn't just from me, but a message from the top of the guild. Semi-ranker? For a player on the 3rd floor? You possess the lightning. Moreover, while it seemed like a ridiculously generous offer, everyone started nodding in understanding. They had seen and experienced Suyuk's prowess firsthand. It was a radical recruitment proposal from Blue Zone. If they offered semi-ranker treatment now, it was clear he would soon climb to prominent positions within the guild. Originally, I should have gotten the lightning and taken that spot. Paul Ryman ground his teeth in frustration at the missed opportunity. It can't be helped. Recruiting Suyuk is the next best option. Even this much was a significant achievement. Blue Zone had repeatedly tried to recruit Suyuk, but meeting with him had proven difficult. But now they were in Thunder Cave. Paul Ryman had the chance to meet Suyuk directly and thus could extend the scouting offer. How about it? Seems like there's no reason for us to fight anymore. Step. With a grin, Paul Ryman approached Suyuk. Slowly, the distance closed. There's every reason. Suyuk finally responded to his offer. Slash. A thin line appeared across his neck. What? His thoughts slowed, and his vision blurred. Even though his legs stood still, the world seemed to move on its own. As his head dropped to the ground, the last thing he thought was, wait, your offer is declined. Paul Ryman's consciousness ended. Asterisk. On her way home, Yerong's steps slowed. He's going to be mad, right? She had boldly promised to bring back Minji's keepsake, yet she was returning empty-handed. She could already envision Shiwoo's reaction. Just as she had, he undoubtedly hoped to retrieve Minji's keepsake. Moreover, I didn't fail to get it. I chose not to. The winner was Lee Soo-yuk, the streamer who shared the name with her friend. They both knew his recent activities through his streams, and they knew Yerong had not gone near him. More than anything else, pretending otherwise, that guy is definitely watching Soo-yuk's streams. They both silently acknowledged this fact. Both of them watched Soo-yuk's streams. Ugh! As her home came into view, Yerong slowed down even more. The thought of enduring Shiwoo's nagging was already making her tired. How was she supposed to explain it? Ugh! That guy's temper is, huh? Yerong blinked in surprise. As she got closer, the house's appearance became clearer. The house was white and frosty. Certainly it was Shiwoo's doing. He's really upset. She genuinely didn't want to go inside. With a heavy heart, she shuffled slowly toward the house. She quietly opened the door and stepped into the living room. Moving with stealth, she tried her best not to make a sound. Even Shiwoo wouldn't notice her if she was careful enough. Attack at the same time, you idiots. Schneider, why aren't you helping? Damn, why did it miss? Shiwoo's loud voice came from his kit. Hearing Schneider's name, it was clear he was watching Lee Soo-yuk's stream. As expected, he knows. Should she run away now? Yerong was lost in her thoughts for a while when, just come out. I won't get mad. Startled, Yerong shivered at Shiwoo's words. How did he find out? Eh? Sighing, Yerong slowly revealed herself. Standing behind him, she approached him cautiously. As she drew closer, whoa, you scared me. Shiwoo jumped up from his seat as Yerong's presence startled him. What? Why are you surprised? You knew I was here. I didn't really think you'd actually be here. What? Thinking you'd come back empty-handed. I knew you'd sneak in. Yerong's eyes widened in shock. Did you expect me? After muttering to myself about 10 times, it started to get boring. Knowing each other too well was the problem. Shiwoo couldn't detect her stealth, but he knew exactly how Yerong would act. Ha. Yerong laughed awkwardly and took a step back. It seemed she had been caught. So, you're not angry then? Shiwoo nodded. Half of it. Half? Why half? Now that she thought about it, it was odd. She had expected him to be furious, to rage at her for failing. But he was calm and collected. Just like Shiwoo could predict her, Yerong could also predict his reactions. You purposely left it behind, didn't you? Well, be honest. At Shiwoo's words, Yerong nodded slightly. Having a mouth felt useless. She had no words to say. Why did you do that? Because. What? Because he's too similar to Soo-yuk. Soo-yuk is. You saw his face? No, who said anything about his face? It's just the feeling, you know? She knew it sounded absurd, but it was her true feeling. Lee Soo-yuk reminded her a lot of her friend. Although his current skills were far inferior, his talent and demeanor overlapped with Soo-yuk. To sever Soo-yuk's legs and take Minji's keepsake? She couldn't bring herself to do it. As Yerong's head lowered with this thought, that's exactly how I feel. Shiwoo wasn't angry. Instead, he nodded. I was actually worried. Worried he'd join Blue Zone eventually. Join Blue Zone? Yeah, just like Cha Minwo. There's no way Kim Il-soo would let a player with lightning go. He'd use them symbolically in many ways. Shiwoo thought that no matter who it was, even if it was Soo-yuk, they had to take Minji's keepsake back. Otherwise, it would become Blue Zone's property once more. But then, this time, it seems your intuition was correct. What do you mean? Explain it so I understand. Soo-yuk, I mean, with a rare, genuinely happy smile, Shiwoo spoke. He turned down Blue Zone. Chapter 75. Huff, huff. Soo-yuk's heavy breathing could no longer be concealed by his mask. Despite his already high fatigue level, he had continued to move without rest, making it natural that he was out of breath. Throb, throb. Every muscle in his body screamed with fatigue. But relaxing wasn't an option just yet. There was still one more to deal with. Are you going to fight too?
Omar Schneider.
The only player Suyuk truly regarded as a threat. Fortunately, Schneider had not moved until now, but who could predict human nature? The allure of Thunder Cave's rewards could prompt him to attack at any moment. However, I'm just curious about what's up there. Are you suggesting a truce? Why, are you afraid? Suyuk nodded. The idea of a truce was worse than a straightforward fight. From Suyuk's perspective, it would be better to have a clear battle right here. Carrying an unpredictable variable forward was not ideal. Really? Well, you might be right. In response, Schneider retrieved a throwing spear from his reserves, given that his original spear had been damaged in the fight against Furious. Then, swish, thunk. With a reverse grip, Schneider plunged the spear into his own legs. Jurarum. He let out a soft groan, sweat dripping from his forehead as he looked up. How's that? Suyuk was taken aback by Schneider's resolve. Had he intended to fight, he might well have had a decent chance. Even if Schneider couldn't be sure of victory, he would have considered his odds to be about 50-50. Despite that, Schneider chose to disable himself to ensure he could proceed with Suyuk. Rather than risk losing a fight here, Schneider opted to secure his passage forward, even if it meant self-inflicted injury. Is he that desperate to see the end of Thunder Cave? This went beyond mere passion. It bordered on madness. Suyuk examined the self-inflicted wounds on Schneider's legs. The spear had gone through to the bone. Walking would be painful, running nearly impossible. Even if Schneider harbored ulterior motives, he wouldn't be capable of fighting effectively. Suyuk turned his microphone to consult with his viewers. Should I take him along? Yeah, you have to take him. Leaving him behind would be too much. Poor Schneider. This is romantic. It's amazing. The viewers' sentiment towards Schneider was mostly positive. It seemed they didn't perceive any hidden motives on his part. Reading through the chat, Suyuk nodded. All right. He adjusted the microphone so Schneider could hear. Let's go. Together. Are you serious? But with those legs, climbing the stairs will be tough. There's no rule that says everyone has to sit on the throne. As long as you sit, it's fine. That works. Had Schneider shown any greed for the throne, Suyuk might have reconsidered. But it seemed unnecessary. Step, step. With the conversation concluded, Suyuk began ascending the steps. Schneider trailed behind, limping as he moved to the base of the stairs. Though there were many steps, they were manageable. Thanks to his light-footed thief abilities, Suyuk still felt relatively agile. Step, step. As he continued his ascent, the throne came into view above. The large, aged throne Furious had guarded for so many years. Sitting on it might reveal why Furious had ended up the way he did. Suyuk sat on the throne without hesitation. At that moment, an unused Thunder Throne has been occupied. With the message, his surroundings changed. Asterisk. It felt like he had lost consciousness for a moment and then returned. With a single blink, the barren surroundings of the stone cave transformed. The seat remained the same, but the worn-down throne now gleamed as if it were brand new. Was this how it originally looked? The once dilapidated, seemingly crumbling throne was now shining and luxurious. No, this was likely its appearance before it degraded over time. Moreover, is this a castle? The cold stone cave walls had disappeared, replaced by the grand and opulent architecture of a castle. The ceiling arched high like the sky, adorned with paintings depicting a battle between warriors on celestial steeds and demons. The sheer grandeur made him wonder who on earth ruled this castle. Screech. A massive red door opened, heralding the entrance of someone who might answer his questions. Step, step. A tall, lean man in golden armor, holding a hammer, walked in and approached the throne. He did not seem to see Suyuk. As though Suyuk were invisible, the man gazed up at the empty throne and spoke. I am not yet worthy to sit there. Yet, that word echoed in Suyuk's mind. Though you have prepared everything, I am still unworthy. What could he possibly be unqualified for? The man stared wistfully at the throne for a long moment before turning to leave. I will return someday, when I am worthy to sit there. As he walked out of the grand hall, he uttered a name, the source of his monologue. Father! Asterisk. His vision shifted back. After the short cutscene, the Thunder Cave's scenery returned. Crack. A fissure formed in the throne where Suyuk was seated. What? Huh? The viewers were as bewildered as he was. Crack. Cr crack. The cracks rapidly spread across the throne, which soon collapsed entirely. Crumble. The throne disintegrated into dust and settled on the ground. Rising to his feet, Suyuk stared at the remnants with a perplexed expression. What's this? The throne had not just cracked but disintegrated into dust almost instantly, as if it had been holding on for an eternity. Within the debris, Suyuk noticed a singular blue gleam. A gem! Suyuk slowly reached out his hand toward the gem. Just as his fingertips touched it, you have conquered the Thunder Cave. You have obtained the empty heart of thunder. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. Strength increases by 2. Agility increases by 2. Stamina increases by 2. Focus increases by 3. You have earned performance points for the Mercenary Guild. A series of messages appeared. Gaining 3 levels was excellent. Ending the raid while his stamina was waning was also a relief. However, one thing stood out: the empty heart of thunder. The item obtained as a reward from the Thunder Cave was the issue. The name suggests it's similar to the Heart of Lightning, but it being empty made the name somewhat ambiguous. Moreover, empty heart of thunder. Grade? The description was filled with nothing but question marks. It was unclear, very unclear. If he at least knew its identity, he could judge whether it was good or bad. The only clue is the item's name. He had to derive hints from the item's name. This was a first, but having some clue was better than none at all. What did you get? Show us too. Show, clap. Show, clap. Naturally, the viewers were most curious about the dungeon reward. He had nothing to hide. If it were something grand, keeping it hidden might be justifiable, but revealing it later would only lead to unnecessary criticism. Suyuk promptly complied with the viewers' request. Their reactions mirrored his own. Eh? What is this? Is it good? Or not? Ambiguous reactions. Exactly my point. Suyuk stifled a sigh. Perhaps he had been secretly hoping for something grand. In reality, he hadn't come out entirely empty-handed. No need to be too greedy. He had already gained a lot from the first room. As much as it was disappointing, he had obtained significant stat boosts thanks to the Mark of Thunder and learned the proper way to use the Heart of Lightning. These achievements alone had exceeded his initial expectations. It's bound to be useful somehow. He may not know its immediate use, but this was a reward from conquering the once impregnable Thunder Cave. Surely it had its purpose, and perhaps, once he discovered that purpose, he would uncover the secrets behind the man and the throne scene in the cutscene. The chat isn't mentioning it at all. Typically, after a cutscene, viewers would be abuzz with interest in the story. But whether it was the giants from earlier or the recent cutscene, the viewers didn't mention anything. This implied that the cutscene hadn't been shown on the stream. Better to keep quiet for now. There was no need to boast about having seen such a cutscene. As a streamer, exposing one's every move could be a serious weakness. But if he could keep some critical information to himself, he had no reason to stream it. Suyuk descended the stairs. Schneider, nursing his injured leg, approached. What was that up there? What did you find? This. Suyuk cut him off and held out the blue gem. It was inside the crumbled throne. What is it? Check it out yourself. Suyuk shared the item's options with Schneider. His expression became even more crestfallen than Suyuk's had been. What is this? Your guess is as good as mine. though you might be the most curious. No matter how interested Suyuk was in the gem's nature, Schneider's curiosity might surpass his. He had dedicated his life to Thunder Cave. The one most eager to know what lay at the end was undoubtedly Schneider. Sigh. Schneider let out a frustrated sigh. Looks like I'll be one of your viewers until we figure this out. He had hoped this raid would free him from Thunder Cave's grasp. Now he was bound to Suyuk's stream until the gem's mystery was unveiled. Make sure to donate a lot. I'll be sure to do my part. Schneider no longer had a reason to stay confined to the third floor. After a decade, he resolved to climb higher once more. He'll do well. Schneider was already an exceptional player, enough to impress Suyuk. Despite the long time it had taken to hone his skills, that time had refined Schneider into a formidable player. He was likely to advance through the 4th, 5th floors, and beyond at an incredible pace. All right, we have some accounting to do, don't we? Time for mission accounting. He's gonna rake it in again, lol. It was time to settle the missions for soloing the Thunder Cave. Do you acknowledge the solo? Yes, absolutely. No doubt. Definitely solo, lol. There was unanimous agreement. Schneider had never been part of the team, and the other players had been more of a burden. There was no one who wouldn't acknowledge it. This meant, mission accomplished. Received 20,000 points from Mission Villain. Mission accomplished. Received 10,000 points from Safe Asset. Mission A. With the series of mission completions, a string of pleasant notifications appeared. A total of 6 missions completed. Just as Suyuk felt his mood lifting, the viewers shifted their discussion to another topic. How many performance points does Thunder Cave give? No idea. We'd have to have conquered it to know. Definitely in the tens of thousands range. Reading these chats, Suyuk seized the moment. Everyone. He took this opportunity to speak. I'll end the stream here for today. So sudden? Wait, hold on. As soon as viewers became curious, now was the perfect time to end the stream. Goodbye. Tails Corner. He passed out again. Chapter 76. Lee Suyuk has ended the stream. The familiar message appeared on screen. Sherwoo and Yerong, watching the stream together, were left baffled. They had been just as curious as the other viewers, only for the stream to end abruptly. What the hell? Yerong clicked her tongue in disappointment and glanced at Sherwoo to gauge his reaction. Although he hadn't been angry earlier, she still had to be wary of Sherwoo's mood. Fortunately, Sherwoo seemed more preoccupied than upset, staring at the now-ended stream with a peculiar expression. Always something that sets him apart, isn't it? He often mumbled to himself, though not all of his mutterings were meant solely for himself. This one was clearly for Yerong to hear. What's different? Suyuk. Throughout the stream, Sherwoo had been thinking about Suyuk. If it were him, he would never have broadcasted in the first place. Yerong nodded at his response. Right, that definitely makes sense. But if someone threatened him that he had to stream or else? Who? I mean, hypothetically. Sherwoo's interruption made Yerong sigh as she continued. Anyway, if someone forced him into a scenario where he had no choice but to stream, maybe he would have acted the same. A situation where he absolutely had to stream. No matter how hard he thought, Sherwoo couldn't come up with such a scenario. Furrowing his brow in deep thought, Sherwoo asked, "What about you?" "What? You've seen him in person." Yerong recalled seeing Lee Suyuk. Through the stream screens, the big monitors at the tournament, and even from a distance she had observed him. And the feeling remained the same. He was similar. They resembled each other. The Suyuk she knew. But they're not the same person. Her firm statement took Sherwoo by surprise. "Do you think I don't know you? You were wondering, weren't you, if this could be him?" "Well, do you think I didn't consider it too? But it's not him." Yerong was certain. Undoubtedly, she had thought about it more than he had. Whether they could be the same person. However, for him to be that guy, 2 conditions would have to be met. The more she thought about it, the less likely it seemed. First, he'd have to have been reincarnated. Otherwise, there's no way he could have gone back to the first floor to start the trials over. That was true, and it was the biggest reason why Sherwoo and Yerong didn't believe Suyuk to be the same person they knew. A player who had ascended the tower could not take the lower floor trials again. And the second reason. The second is what we already talked about. The situation where someone has to stream? Yes. Those two reasons were precisely why Yerong was certain he was not the same person. The likelihood of a reincarnated Suyuk having someone holding a knife to his throat, forcing him to stream, how likely could that be? In a castle located on the 5th floor, a visitor had arrived. His name was Cheon Riang, one of the countless players scattered like pebbles throughout the vast Murim world. Step. However, today, Cheon Riang was walking along a long red silk path, marching towards the center of the castle, flanked on both sides by intimidating guards. Glancing to his sides, Cheon Riang observed his escorts, knowing fully well they were there more for surveillance and intimidation. He wondered why he had come this far. I knew this would happen. What did you say? The guard beside him asked, catching his whispered complaint, causing Cheon Riang to shake his head. Nothing. It's nothing. If you have something to say, tell the Lord directly.
No pointless chatter.
Yes. He involuntarily hunched his shoulders. Although he had often visited as a child, he had not been to the castle in the past decade, making the experience all the more daunting. I never thought I'd come back here. He would have preferred to avoid this place forever. But I lost the bet, didn't I? He had no choice. Otherwise, his already strained finances would be completely depleted. Moreover, Hyang, that guy, gazing at the massive doors adorned with dragon motifs, Cheon Riang thought of Hyang. Sorry it turned out this way. Just mark it down as a debt. When was the last time I heard her say sorry? Hearing an apology from Hyang was rare. The fact that she mentioned a debt indicated that she took the matter seriously. For how long had he been contemplating? Cheon Riang knew, as did Hyang, that even betting a month's salary on a wager and then nullifying it was not a fair balance. Sigh. He exhaled deeply, watching as the grand doors slowly opened. Hyang had used the bet as an excuse, making an unusual request because he didn't want to cross that door. A person who rarely asked for favors had leveraged a bet she knew he would lose right from the start. How could I refuse after that? Creak. The doors fully opened, revealing the castle's opulent interior. Golden walls adorned with luxurious fabrics and the scent of incense more expensive than gold filled his nostrils. It was a place hard to adapt to, making him feel as though he had entered a different world. And the most out-of-place thing here, Cheon Riang's gaze traveled to the far end of the silk path, where a man sat alone, dominating the vast throne room. Someone he hadn't seen in a long time, and even after a long absence, it was difficult to acclimate to his presence. Outwardly, the man appeared to be an amiable, middle-aged gentleman. His simple, gray silk robe clashed with the castle's grandeur. Approaching the man, Cheon Riang brought his hands together in a respectful gesture and greeted him. I greet the lord of the castle. Have you been well? No need for such formalities. Just call me uncle as you used to. Peculiar, golden-yellow eyes looked down upon him. Like in the old days. The voice was warm and kind. To an outsider, it might even sound like a friendly greeting. But Cheon Riang knew better than to be deceived by appearances. He knew he couldn't afford to show weakness. Thus he replied, Understood, uncle. Cheon Riang's provocation brought a smile to the man's face. He wanted to understand the expression better, but he couldn't decipher it. The more Cheon Riang tried to know him, the deeper into the labyrinth he felt. I shouldn't have called him uncle, but it was too late to regret it now. Once he'd called him uncle, he had to stick with it to the end. And this man before him, the second in command of the Grand Guild Murim, and Lord of Shinryeonseong, Cheonguk, was no exception. Well then, how have you been? No problems, I hope. Yes, thanks to your concern. I hear you're working at Balhi Entertainment? How is it there? Cheon Riang felt his breath catch at that question. It's quite a substantial place. I was curious when I heard you were working there, so I checked it out a few times. Lee Soo-yuk. An Cheon-guk's expression momentarily shifted as he mentioned that name before returning to normal. He's interesting, or should I say, fascinating? You have an eye for talent. Finding someone like him. Since when? What do you mean? Since when did you know we were working for Balhi? He had suspected An Cheon-guk might already know. The fact that An Hyang had sent him here indicated that An Cheon-guk had found her again. But from An Cheon-guk's words, it seemed it hadn't been a recent discovery. Well, is that really important? It might not be significant to you, but... Cheon Riang clamped his mouth shut mid-sentence. An Cheon-guk was smiling. Provoking him further wouldn't end well. Despite asking him to call him uncle, he was still the second in command of Murim, one of the dominant forces in this vast world. Let's discuss something else. As Cheon Riang stopped speaking, An Cheon-guk naturally changed the topic. Since changing kits, I couldn't get in touch with An Hyang. The same with you. Yes, there was a new release. Is that so? I suppose. You two have always been close, so it makes sense you'd change together. Accepting the implausible excuse, An Cheon-guk asked, So, did you bring An Hyang's answer? The reason Cheon Riang was granted such grand treatment upon entering the castle. The reason he could have a private audience with An Cheon-guk. Yes, I brought her answer. It was precisely because of this. Really? What is it? Her answer is... Taking a deep breath, Cheon Riang spoke. She declines. I see. Gong. The hall slightly trembled. According to An Cheon-guk's emotion, the golden walls and floor began to crack faintly. And observing this, Cheon Riang idly thought, the repair guys are going to have a hard time. He knew very well that An Cheon-guk would react this way. He knew the extent of his power. Decline, huh? Decline. An Cheon-guk kept muttering the same word repeatedly, a habit for when something didn't sit well with him. After a moment of muttering, he asked, Do you know what question this answer pertains to? I do not. You don't? Yet you came anyway? Yes. Cheon Riang nodded, providing a plausible context for this outrageous answer. Because we're friends. Inseparable. Cheon Riang truly didn't know. If it had been something he needed to know, An Hyang would have told him when sending him here. But she didn't. All she said was, All you need to convey is my answer. No. She sent him off with just that single line. So he hadn't asked. Because it seemed like she didn't want to talk about it. I see. You were, after all.
Un Cheon-guk's expression shifted subtly.
It was hard to tell if he was displeased or perhaps somewhat pleased. As his rapidly changing expressions continued to flicker, Cheon Riang sensed that his own fate would be determined by whichever expression he settled on. After what felt like an eternity, it seems, An Cheon-guk spoke again. You are that person's envoy after all. Peculiar conclusion. And with that conclusion, Cheon Riang instinctively knew that a difficult situation was about to get even harder. Excuse me? No, I just lost a bet. And then relay this. An Cheon-guk didn't acknowledge the explanation about the bet. Cheon Riang sighed. It was no use. An Cheon-guk had no intention of listening to what he had to say. Ultimately, Cheon Riang had no choice but to stand and listen to what An Cheon-guk had to say. If she continues to act on her own, I won't just stand by and watch the place you're involved with. Chapter 77. The next morning after the stream, An Hyang came down to the first-floor lobby early to check the players' community. Play button yesterday's Lee Soo-yuk broadcast legend reverse button. The post had over 100 upvotes and thousands of views. The video captured Soo-yuk's final remarkable move, where he seemingly vanished into thin air and then appeared to decapitate Furious. Wow! She had watched it live, but even on replay it was astonishing. While the speed at which he disappeared from sight was impressive, it wasn't what impressed her the most. It was the final moment when he swung his sword upside down in midair. How did he accurately decapitate from that position? Many players could move quickly, But few could control that speed so flawlessly. Without the ability to harness their speed, players who moved too fast would just become wild bulls, unpredictable and dangerous. Most players on Hyang observed, even those considered rankers, fell into that category. Yet, Suyuk, he doesn't make a single mistake even at that speed. During such rapid movement, Suyuk performed a leap, flipping his body 180 degrees in midair. His world must have been upside down during those moments. And yet, he executed a precise and fatal strike on Furious. From Furious's perspective, Suyuk must have seemed to vanish momentarily. If it were me, she pondered briefly, could she have done the same? With that speed, using a skill from an item she had just acquired. No, even if she were familiar with the skill, it would be the same. 1 out of 3 times. That's how often I'd succeed as clearly as he did. Meaning it was virtually impossible. A technique that had only a 1 in 3 chance of success couldn't be used reliably in real combat. Crazy, really? The more competent she was, the more astounding it was. Watching Suyuk's stream gave her the same thrill as watching blue-eyed Suyuk from long ago. Slurping her tea, Hyang took in the replay once more. Then she resumed browsing the community posts. Play button, the real reason Lee Suyuk's bus riders are the worst reverse button. One of those guys used to be in my party. Real jerk. Took all the loot and disappeared. And I saw him there, lol. Really? Can you prove it? As expected, the proof police are here, lol. Honestly, if there's no proof, then what? OP, I posted proof in a separate thread. Check it out. It's real. Suyuk, I believed in you. It was Jong 29 Hyen lol. Her lips curled into a grin. Up until yesterday, netizens who were looking for any flaw in Suyuk's actions had shifted the focus of their criticism. It wasn't just this post. Several posts had gone up targeting players who tried to leech off Suyuk. Hyang made a call through her kit. What is it? You're calling this early in the morning? What else could it be? Yeah, it's about the streamer Suyuk. You wouldn't be calling otherwise. She heard a yawn through the line. It was faint, but Hyang's sharp ears didn't miss it. Did you stay up all night? Yawn. Yeah, I did. You're yawning again. I had things to take care of. It's your work, isn't it, team leader? The reason Hyang had called John Dale early in the morning was due to the rapidly changing public opinion. Those posts? Yes. You knew immediately, so it must be your work. It's half true. John Dale didn't deny Hyang's assumption. Well, it would have blown up eventually even if it wasn't me. Those guys were nastier than I expected. If the content of the posts were to be trusted, that was certainly the case. Not only had they taken advantage of the bus service, but they'd also backstabbed team members during trials and ran off without distributing rewards. One of them was even a notorious scammer. Well, that's the kind of people who would brashly take the bus ride. How did you manage it? By tracking them down one by one. The reply was enough to make anyone's jaw drop. That was the reason he stayed up all night. Finding their past deeds with just names and faces required digging into their history meticulously, a painstakingly manual task. It was a job that couldn't have been done without confidence that their past was shady. And John Dale had that confidence. From my experience, any jerk who blatantly messes with a streamer and extorts them is always a repeat offender. John Dale had been certain they were habitual offenders. The public opinion was that maybe those guys genuinely tried their best and were decent players. Exactly. So our job was simple. We had to prove those guys weren't upstanding players but were scum that everyone loves to hate. Hyang was impressed, knowing John Dale's efficiency but not expecting him to handle things this quickly. So don't be disappointed in streamer Lee Suyuk. He didn't do anything wrong. Excuse me? Hyang tilted her head in confusion. Why would I be disappointed? Just in case. A small sigh was audible through the device. Since you started managing streamer Lee Suyuk, you've seemed a lot happier. You used to just collect a paycheck, but now you're actually working. Me? Yeah. So don't get disheartened and keep supporting streamer Lee Suyuk. I believe a manager should be the streamer's biggest fan. Team leader? Could it be? It dawned on Unhyang, so she asked, "Did you do all this because of me?" Consider it a mix of reasons. Streamer Lee Suyuk's performance also made it worthwhile. A half admission. Unhyang, uneasy, began touching her face. She couldn't help but wonder what kind of expression she had had before to be told this. "Anyway, I'm hanging up. I heard there's no stream today, right?" "Yes, that's correct. I'll send some funds over. Make sure streamer Lee Suyuk gets something good to eat. And let him know the next video will be uploaded tomorrow. Bye." Click. Ending the call with a piece of news sure to make Suyuk dance with joy, the conversation with John Dale was over. "What a guy," Unhyang mumbled while scratching her head. "Thanks, I guess." After finishing the trial and stream, Suyuk slept until late in the morning. He had been moving too busily until now. As soon as he finished hunting, he competed in a tournament, and then immediately attacked the Thunder Cave without a moment's rest. And even today, the day he decided to rest, was no exception. "What is this?" Looking at the blue gem sparkling between his fingers, Suyuk furrowed his brows. "I can't figure out what this is used for." The difficulty of the Thunder Cave was not ordinary. It was questionable whether it was even created to be cleared. The monsters appearing from the entrance of the cave, the dragon's trial, and Furious appearing at the end. It would have been impossible to win if he hadn't gained stats and Minji's shoes before facing him. A dungeon set at that level of difficulty on the 3rd floor. It wouldn't give just anything. This too, like the Heart of Lightning, would certainly be useful. The problem was that finding its use wouldn't be easy. There was just one hint. That cut scene. A man looking up at the throne where the orb was, unseen by the viewers. That man might know the identity of the orb. If only I could find him. But where? Finding him on the 3rd floor is difficult. The time difference between the cut scene and the 3rd floor wasn't just decades but centuries. Continuing to ponder, Suyuk scratched his head. "For now, I guess I have no choice but to continue as usual. In the first place, the Heart of Lightning and the reward from the Thunder Cave. These were things he hadn't obtained in his previous life. And regarding the lightning, Suyuk knew quite a bit. Even though the floors were different, the lightning trials wouldn't end. The trials would continue on the next floor, and then the floor after that. So, I will head upwards for now. He had no intention of lingering on the 3rd floor any longer. Though he didn't intend to say that Schneider's method was wrong. There was a reason many players met the conditions and headed straight up. Above all, he was in a hurry. He wanted to kill Kim Il-soo as soon as possible and meet his comrades again. Thinking that pondering alone wouldn't reveal anything, Suyuk put the orb back into his inventory. He considered swallowing it like the Heart of Lightning, but it wasn't a trial and he couldn't afford to gamble here. Knock knock. It was then that a visitor knocked on his door. There was only one person who would seek out Suyuk in his current life. Wearing the mask placed beside him, Suyuk responded to the knock. "Komein." Click dash. The unlocked door opened. Peeking in, Unhyang looked at Suyuk. "Would you like to have a meal?" She added a line. A very expensive one. In a lavishly set dining room, a feast of delicacies presented itself. Giant shrimp the size of one's forearm, thick T-bone steaks, steaming soups, and various grilled dishes whose names were unknown. Not just the ambience, but even the food itself screamed of high cost. "It's been a while since I've been to a place like this." Recently, he had been so focused on saving points that he hadn't thought about investing money in meals. The only reason he could come here was thanks to Unhyang. "Didn't we order too much?" "It's on the company's dime, so we might as well eat well and leave the leftovers." "Is that really okay?" "The team leader told me to buy you something expensive and tasty," Suyuknim. Although they didn't explicitly say expensive, Unhyang understood it that way. "Eat up. If there's something else you want, we can go for a round too. Then, I'll enjoy it without reservation." The food was quite delicious. Suyuk felt no awkwardness since his personality matched well with Unhyang's. Though most of the conversation revolved around streaming or other streamers, the dialogue flowed smoothly. As the meal was drawing to a close, "Ah, right. About the next video. Only after taking a bite of dessert did Hyang remember John Dale's words. It's supposed to go up tomorrow. Tomorrow? That's quick. The company has high expectations. They've been thrilled with Suyuk's recent reactions.
Non.
Hyang naturally scooped ice cream into his mouth as he spoke, but Suyuk still hadn't internalized it. Really? Yes. There hasn't been another streamer like you rising so rapidly in our company, other than Bald Suyuk.
Bald Suyuk.
A streamer from Balhi Entertainment, one who focused more on comedy than skill in their streams. And possibly a streamer Suyuk might collaborate with someday. But, so here's the thing. Taking a deep sigh, Hyang asked with a concerned expression, how about reconsidering the collaboration with Bald Suyuk? Chapter 78. Bald Suyuk. He first started streaming about 5 years ago. With his inherent cheerfulness, he began his stream by cosplaying Lee Suyuk using a mask. A physical appearance that didn't match the mask at all, and his poor gaming skills led to hilarious moments. He was truly a natural-born streamer. A major streamer indeed. At his peak, over 100,000 viewers would watch his streams. Nonetheless, Hyang seemed reluctant about the idea of collaborating with him. But still, it's a bit. Why is that? Having finished his meal, Suyuk set down his utensils. At this point, he was genuinely curious. Why was everyone so hesitant about collaborating with Bald Suyuk? If even Hyang, who wasn't a regular viewer, was advising against it, there seemed to be a valid reason. Bald Suyuk has a nickname. A nickname? King of Destruction. A question mark popped up in Suyuk's mind. King of Destruction? The nickname seemed childish, but more importantly, it didn't fit Bald Suyuk at all. He didn't seem like someone who'd earned such a grandiose title. He is an incredible person, in many ways. In many ways? There have been over 20 streamers who've collaborated with him. But, Hyang let out a deep sigh. They all failed. Failed? The collaboration? No, the streamers themselves. It was a statement hard to comprehend. Not just the collaboration failing, but the streamers themselves failing? What on earth did that mean? The collaborations themselves generally went well. Bald Suyuk is immensely popular, and the streamers he collaborates with are quite popular too. Then what is the problem? There is no problem. For Bald Suyuk, that is. Finding it hard to explain, Hyang furrowed his brows even as he took another bite of something sweet. It's like a kind of jinx. A very strong one. A jinx? Yes. Most of the issues were with the streamers he collaborated with. Relationship problems, major accidents during streams, or their streams slowly declining. The reasons were varied. Not a single one of them could be blamed on Bald Suyuk directly, but this much is clear. Any streamer who collaborates with Bald Suyuk ends up failing. So the nickname, King of Destruction? Yes, it's called that because any streamer who collaborates with him ends up destroyed. With that explanation, Suyuk recalled the viewers' reactions. Now it makes sense. Collaborating with Bald Suyuk, the King of Destruction. To the viewers, it must have felt like watching a moth flying into a flame, not knowing if it was fire or water. However, rather than deter him, this information only sparked Suyuk's interest further. There's definitely no issue with Bald Suyuk himself, right? That is correct? Bald Suyuk was a streamer under Balhi Entertainment. As a streamer from the same company, Hyang could confidently say that Bald Suyuk's nickname King of Destruction was not his fault. It was just a cruel twist of fate. Then that's settled. With that response, Suyuk made his decision. Let's do the collaboration. What?
Hyang looked surprised.
He had suggested against the collaboration, but Suyuk reacted in the opposite way. Initially, it seemed like Suyuk didn't mind either way whether they collaborated or not. But now he was showing a firm determination to collaborate. But Bald Suyuk doesn't just collaborate with anyone. Is it still not enough? Well, to be honest, I think you might be enough, Suyuknim. But Hyang seemed to be trying hard to dissuade Suyuk from collaborating with Bald Suyuk. Bald Suyuk is also mindful of the King of Destruction nickname. If he collaborates and your stream fails, it would unfairly become his fault. That doesn't matter. A major streamer known as the King of Destruction. A collaboration with him would certainly create a buzz, and it would have a positive effect in one way or another. The only concern was the jinx that any streamer who collaborates with him ends up failing. But Suyuk was confident. I will absolutely not fail. He was determined to fight and win, even against the King of Destruction, Bak Suyuk. Asterisk. Recently, the hottest trending content on Falcon Eye's channel was Lee Suyuk. For Falcon Eye, who focused primarily on reviews, rankers, or streamers themselves were content. And lately, the hottest rookie generating the most buzz was Lee Suyuk.
Fali.
Fal Hai.
Fali.
Taiho.
Indicating hello to Lee Suyuk streamer. It wasn't surprising that viewers' reactions had turned like this recently. Falcon Eye had been reviewing every other day Lee Suyuk's stream. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before Lee Suyuk became the most frequently featured subject on Falcon Eye's stream. At that moment, from a black screen, Falcon Eye's voice flowed out. Yes, hello. This is Falcon Eye, the dedicated Lee Suyuk review streamer. What's with the tone? Lalalol. Just acknowledged it lalalol. Translation. So what if it's true, you pesky viewers? The chat filled with laughter at Falcon Eye's greeting. Having broken the ice, Falcon Eye immediately showed his face and started the stream. Seriously, at this rate, I might end up being a dedicated Lee Suyuk review streamer. I'm kinda worried. Weren't you already? You just admitted it, old man. That was a joke. But what can I do? There's something to review in every single stream. Even though I've been doing this content for a long time, I've never seen someone like him. Starting off with high praise again. Get together. Clap. Get together. Clap. But seriously, he did clear Thunder Cave lalalol. Exactly. I knew he'd challenge it, but I didn't expect him to succeed on the first try. Honestly, I thought maybe 5 attempts. But, as if struck by awe, Falcon Eye continued the stream with an excited expression and tone. But the most impressive part is the process and the result. I actually screamed while watching it live. Definitely confirmed easy mode. Just change your nickname to Easy Falcon Eye, bro. This isn't easy mode. It's sweet mode. Indeed, the atmosphere of reviewing Lee Suyuk's content was significantly different from other review content. Even when dealing with rankers, Falcon Eye's streams could be ruthlessly critical, but when it came to Suyuk, the review turned so sweet it could give you a toothache. Indeed, Falcon Eye recalled the stream from just the other day. No, you can't pull back now. If your shield's durability is still good, you should hold your ground with it. Look, his stamina is completely depleted and he's gasping for breath. But he has plenty of magic, so he retreats to heal himself. I've always said this. It's ideal for stamina and magic to be used in proportion. This person lacks basic fundamentals. Just because they're a ranker doesn't mean they're all the same. This guy should go back to the first floor for basic training dash dot. The tone difference was significant, but it was unavoidable. Whether it was sweet, spicy, or bitter, every review had to be honest. That was Falcon Eye's motto. There's nothing to criticize here. So what do you expect me to do? In the end, Falcon Eye shamelessly carried on. And fortunately, his shamelessness worked quite well. True. There's really nothing lalalol. But this trolling was a bit. Those bus riders were the real issue. Don't you know? As the chat started getting noisy over the finished topic, Falcon Eye hurriedly tried to calm the stream. Alright. Let's stop talking about unrelated stuff. Let's keep it short and sweet today. Saying this, Falcon Eye played the video. However, contrary to the phrase short and sweet, the video started quite far along. Why start from here? Did you skip the beginning? The review began right from where Suyuk entered Second Thunder Chamber. Practically at the final stage of the Thunder Cave raid. Suyuk spotted Furious fighting Schneider in the distance and aimed his spear at him. The stance of throwing the spear was good. The target setting was also good. Thwang dash. The spear shot by Suyuk deflected Furius's sword. Actually, it looked like it deflected Furius's sword. Honestly, I was more surprised by Furius than Lee Suyuk here. To react so quickly and deflect the spear while fighting Schneider. It was incredible. It wasn't Suyuk's spear that deflected the sword. Instead, it was Furius deflecting the spear shot by Suyuk. It was here I thought, this won't be easy. No, it'll be difficult. After pausing to gather his thoughts, Falcon Eye added, it wasn't the same old Lozarius. Poor Lozarius lalalal. What's Lozarius? Why is someone here who doesn't know Lozarius? What's that, nerd? The video continued. But unexpectedly, Lee Suyuk fought really well. Honestly, I was a bit surprised here, but not that much. Why? Because it's Lee Suyuk. Because it's Lee Suyuk. By now, he was becoming someone who could be described with just his name. He was becoming that, and Falcon Eye was crafting that narrative. The real surprise was this. Click. At a certain point, the video playback slowed down. It was the part where Schneider's spear flew between the fiercely battling Lee Suyuk and Furius. This was the turning point. Of course, Furius reacted. The issue was the brief opening that was created. Even though it was supposed to be in slow motion, the speed seemed to be the same. No, it even appeared to be faster. Look, it's speeding up alone. Isn't that insane? How can this be considered a level 3 floor? Falcon Eye's voice grew louder. And this part. Click. Lee Suyuk leaped high, stepping on air right in front of Furius. And he didn't stop there. He directed his feet toward the ceiling of the cave. If you flip your body like this in an instant, your leap strength skyrockets. From your opponent's perspective, it would feel like the enemy on the ground suddenly vanished or soared into the sky. It was an acrobatic feat, one that was extremely difficult and spectacular. Just landing correctly from this position alone is impressive. But, swish, Lee Suyuk slashed Furius's neck in that stance. In one clean cut all the way through to the bone. Boom. This is the truly insane part. How can you achieve such an accurate aim from that position?
That's insane.
He made it look so easy, so I thought it was simple. It's a bit ambiguous. It looks doable. The audience's reaction was a bit ambiguous. It was understandable. Most viewers didn't watch streams of lower-level segments. They typically watch streams of top-tier players, the rankers. It wasn't surprising that Lee Suyuk's play didn't seem extraordinary to viewers accustomed to the most stimulating content. However, you think this looks easy? Falcon, I couldn't agree with that sentiment at all. No matter what skills you use, if anyone below the 5th floor can replicate this, let them come forward. What if someone does? What will you do? If someone does? After pondering for a moment, Falcon Eye finally made a bold proclamation. I'll immediately donate 100,000 points to that person's stream. And that statement marked the beginning of the Lee Suyuk Challenge. Chapter 79. After a day of rest, Suyuk resumed his trial and stream. Suhai. Baby Suyuk, hey. He's grown up way too fast for a baby. What is he eating to grow so big? It's our points, of course. From the start, the chat was bustling. Although it was just text, Suyuk felt as if his ears were already noisy. First, it was a bit dizzying. But now he had gotten quite used to it and even found it enjoyable. The viewers. Barely 5 minutes had passed since the stream started. Suyuk, having exited the Thunder Cave and returned to the Mercenary Guild, glanced at the viewer trends. Viewers. 6,890. Almost 7,000 viewers. The trend was much faster than before. At this rate, surpassing 10,000 viewers was almost a certainty. It must have been a hot topic. Clearing the Thunder Cave. He'd heard that it stirred quite a buzz in the community. Moreover, swiftly getting rid of players trying to ride along the previous day also seemed to have contributed to the hype. You don't need to worry about public opinion. Fortunately, it passed smoothly. Really? I thought it would take a bit more time. The team leader acted quickly. It seems they dug up those guys' past actions and tipped off the victims. A conversation with Un Hyang from their meal the previous day. Suyuk suddenly remembered the presence of Balhi Entertainment behind him. I was ready to be criticized for a while though. It was better to get criticized a bit than to keep being dragged by those kinds of people. Besides, eventually public opinion would side with him even if he was criticized at first. He had committed to it thinking that way. But inwardly, he had braced himself for a period of criticism. It was a relief. As a streamer now, Suyuk didn't want the chat to be noisy for other reasons. Today, my past stream segments were supposed to be uploaded. Suyuk, who initially thought having a company was neither here nor there, had to rethink. They're doing good work. Managing public opinion, providing advice and information about the stream, generating additional revenue streams, etc. While he couldn't speak for other companies, Balhi Entertainment surely played its role as a partner well. Shortly after, Suyuk officially started his stream, turning on the microphone. Hi. Suyuk waved his hand. It was a very stiff greeting. What's with the tension? Lol. Even if it's fake, try a bit harder, man. It's so dry. I can't feel anything from this stream. Suyuk awkwardly opened his hand in response to the viewers' reactions.
Hi.
Awkward. This is the first time I've been so cringed out from 2 words. Just do it normally. Yes, let's do that. His quick agreement filled the chat with laughter. And soon, the viewers noticed Suyuk's location. Broadcasting from the Mercenary Guild? Looks like he's gonna settle accounts right away. Going to get his achievement points and move on. The 3rd floor trial involved completing requests for the Mercenary Guild and accumulating achievement points. The required achievement points to move to the next floor was typically 10,000. However, sometimes performing exceptionally well on high difficulty requests allowed one to earn more than 10,000 achievement points. And the Thunder Cave clearing request was the highest difficulty among the Mercenary Guild's requests. Yes, that's right. I'll settle the accounts and move on immediately. Oh! Loving the fast progression. Fast? This should have been done 2 days ago, SMH. Wonder how much he'll get. The viewers were eager to see how many achievement points Suyuk would get for clearing the Thunder Cave. Probably half of those who joined the stream immediately after hearing the alert were curious about that. I'll be settling accounts in 5 minutes. It seems like not many people have joined yet. Today, he had even set a specific stream title. The title was Thunder Cave Request Settlement. It was Unhyang who had suggested it, saying that it would help gather viewers quickly. Unhyang insisted on having a title today. In the meantime, I'll take some questions. How many hours do you plan to stream today? What did you do during your break? Are you going to start the 4th floor right away? Among the various questions, Suyuk answered the last one that caught his eye. I plan to start the 4th floor immediately. My goal is to clear it in the shortest time possible.
As expected.
This guy is always serious about his trials. He's definitely going to set a new record. Most of Suyuk's viewers watched to see how he handled the trials. On the 2nd floor, he obtained the lightning, and on the 3rd floor, he cleared the Thunder Cave. Once could be a coincidence, but successfully doing so twice in a row meant the next time was even more anticipated. Civil Defense has donated 100 points, but doesn't that mean Schneider will also accumulate points? You did clear it together. In response to the donation message, Suyuk nodded. Yes, I think so. Achievement points will probably vary based on contributions. Wow. Schneider is going to move up right away too. If he amassed points for 10 years, that's going to be amazing. Nah, his points reset every time he dies in the Thunder Cave LOL. For 10 years, Schneider had been fixated on the Thunder Cave. Whenever the Thunder Cave opened, he attempted the challenge, and during the off times, he leveled up and honed his skills. However, having failed the Thunder Cave dozens, if not hundreds of times, Schneider had no remaining points. Well, I guess he'll still get enough to surpass 10,000 points. That guy too. Viewers? 11, 8, 29. As more time passed, the speed at which viewers increased gradually slowed down. Feeling that he had waited long enough, Suyuk started moving and spoke up. All right, let's go settle the accounts. Step by step, Suyuk headed towards the settlement counter of the Mercenary Guild. At the counter, a bearded mercenary was sitting with a bored expression, propping his chin up. Mercenary badge and completion certificate. Yawning as if everything was a hassle, Suyuk handed over the 2 items he requested. Swoosh. The mercenary's eyes grew wider and wider as he checked the mercenary badge and completion certificate as usual.
Otherworlder, E rank.
Thunder. Cave? An entirely mismatched combination. As the mercenary looked up at him, Suyuk handed over another document. Here. It was a recommendation letter. Upon checking it, the mercenary looked utterly bewildered. Just a moment, please. His tone towards Suyuk changed. Suddenly fully awake, the mercenary stood up and disappeared somewhere, only to return 5 minutes later. It's confirmed. The Thunder Cave was truly cleared. Then please sign here. Right here. Tap. Tap. As Suyuk tapped the completion certificate, the mercenary hurriedly picked up a feather pen. The moment the signature was completed was also the moment the settlement was finalized. Scratch, scratch, as the signature was completed. Here it is. The moment Suyuk received the completion certificate back from the mercenary. You have completed the request, Thunder Cave clearance. You have earned 300,000 achievement points. 300,000? That's insane, lol. They gave him 30 times the passing requirement. Honestly, it's deserved. 300,000 achievement points. Since Suyuk thought he could get anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 points, it was exactly in the middle. Neither disappointing nor entirely satisfying. The real deal started from here. You have met the conditions. Would you like to end the trial? Having no intention to linger like Schneider, Suyuk made his decision immediately. Of course. It was a tense and exciting moment. The stats are important, but I hope they give a lot of points too. After this mission, Suyuk had secured a considerable number of points. But unfortunately, he was still slightly short of the next goal of 160,000 points. Current points: 146, 612. About 14,000 points remaining. If possible, Suyuk hoped to secure all the necessary points this time. Soon after, you have passed the trial of the Kingdom of Conrad. You have achieved 300,000 achievement points. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. Your level A. You have earned 29,000 points. As the rewards appeared, Suyuk cheered inwardly. It worked. His level increased by 6 stages, and he gained 29,000 points. Considering that he had been experiencing a rapid increase in magic and felt the need for more stats, the level up was the best reward he could have received. Moreover, he could now increase the level of selfish sacrifice. This significantly compensated for some of the drawbacks of the lightning. The imbalance in stats can be overcome with selfish sacrifice and the heart of lightning. Plus, gaining 4 points in stamina. Although he would need to trial it in practice to be sure, it felt like he had reached a stable point. At that moment, the final message continued. Moving to the 4th floor, we're dash. Asterisk. The sensation of blinking and then the world reappearing. The feeling of the surroundings changing and the air and sounds around you feeling different was always mysterious. The 4th floor. Having arrived in the new world, Suyuk looked around at the scenery. Chirp, chirp dash. The pleasant sound of birds filled the air. The sky was blue, and beautifully shaped clouds floated by. In the distance there was a tall, towering castle. Surrounding it were buildings in an old European style, lined up side by side. Flowers intertwined with splendid architecture, and people's faces were bright without a hint of worry. A beautiful world, as if on a vacation. This was the world of the 4th floor, Elysium, the place where most players end up stopping. Hence, the name the world where dreams stop. In this fairy tale-like world, many players forget their dreams. The ambition to take trials, climb the tower, become rankers, and enjoy wealth and honor. Even the mission given when they first entered the tower, to prepare for the event that will begin someday. An event that will begin someday. Suyuk was lost in thought, reminiscing about when he first entered the tower. You have been chosen by the tower. Ascend the tower and prepare for the event that will begin someday. Suyuk was not the only one who heard this message. Every player who ascended the tower heard the same message. This was the reason all players initially started climbing the tower. However, when exactly is that day coming? Unlike when he first began, Suyuk no longer climbed the tower because of that message. He climbed it to take revenge on Kim Il-soo and to find the comrades who might still be alive. And other players were the same, having forgotten that initial goal. The peaceful scenery unfolded before his eyes. Everyone has forgotten the warning they heard back then. Suyuk interpreted that message as a warning. If you do not prepare for that day, something terrible could happen. Therefore, you must climb the tower. No, you must conquer it. Chapter 80. After arriving on the 4th floor, Suyuk briefly ended his stream. He had met the conditions to level up the selfish sacrifice skill and needed to visit the new accommodations arranged by Balhi. Arriving at his new lodging, Suyuk stood in front of the building, admiring it for a moment. Looks expensive. It was a tall building that seemed newly constructed. Expensive materials had been used, and statues lined the entrance, making it look almost like a small castle. It definitely looked pricey. It was a stark contrast to the lodgings he had been using previously. Click dash. What are you doing out here instead of coming in? The door swung open quickly, and Hyang came out to greet him. Hyang had arrived early at the lodging. Just taking a look around. Here? It's nice, isn't it? Yes, quite so. This level of luxury was something Suyuk could only dream of in his previous life. As Suyuk wondered about the sudden upgrade, Hyang added an explanation. It's because you've grown in stature, Suyuk. Stature? You mean my stream? Yes, you're now a proper mid-tier streamer. One with significant growth potential. Suyuk's position had changed rapidly. Not long ago, he was a newbie who had just started streaming. Now, he was a mid-tier streamer with tens of thousands of viewers. Moreover, the company is anxious. They're worried you might up and leave for one of the large guilds. Given Suyuk's potential for both growing his stream and possibly transferring to another guild, Balhi Entertainment had to use various methods to keep him. Step by step, Suyuk entered the lodging with Hyang. The lobby had a ceiling that seemed at least 10 meters high, with a fountain at the center. There was a tea zone for drinking tea and a dining area for breakfast. Felt like stepping into a grand hotel. How about a cup of tea? On the company's tab, of course. Hyang said this as he ordered a large amount of coffee and desserts. The company funds were flowing out. Suyuk, who also ordered a cup of coffee, felt a bit uneasy. The change in treatment is so abrupt, it's almost overwhelming. Hey, it's all paid for with the money you've brought into the company. I don't feel like I've earned that much yet. You will soon. The company wouldn't do anything unprofitable. There was truth in his words. Suyuk's video channel was growing rapidly, and even now the view counts were rising. It was clear that the video of him clearing the Thunder Cave would gain significant popularity. There are already 3 ads on Suyuk's videos. That's a sign your popularity is growing quickly. Ads, you say? Yes. There are also direct advertisement offers wanting Suyuk to feature their products. The recent challenge seems to have boosted your popularity even more. Challenge? Suyuk raised his eyebrows as if he didn't understand, to which Hyang responded with a puzzled look. Haven't you watched Falcon Eye's stream? I have. Falcon Eye said if anyone could replicate Suyuk's feat, he'd give them 100,000 points. Remember? Indeed, he had said that. At the end of his stream, it was mentioned almost as a joke, but Falcon Eye wasn't someone to make promises he didn't keep. And streamers, knowing this, it seems that has become quite trendy these days. It was known as the Lee Suyuk Challenge. On the 5th floor, there was a streamer named Dororo. He was a streamer who, on average, recorded about 5,000 viewers. He was neither particularly successful nor a failure as a streamer. He earned a decent income from donations, and although slowly, he was steadily advancing up the tower. In the midst of this, Dororo started an intriguing new content. I'm going to try the Lee Suyuk Challenge. The Lee Suyuk Challenge had begun spreading like a trend among streamers. It was only natural for streamers, often struggling for new content, to take an interest in a new challenge. They could stream new content, and if they succeeded, earn up to 100,000 points. Not attempting it would be foolish. Moreover, now that I think about it, there's Dororo Lalalal. Doesn't he have a skill similar to flying? It didn't matter what skill you used. You just had to perfectly replicate the move. The practice target will be the trial dummy in the testing grounds. What difficulty level? Level 1. Level 1 Lalalal LOL. Utterly despicable. So you're just gonna slash a stationary target Lalalal. Dororo. Shame on you. Despite the audience's taunts, Dororo shrugged his shoulders. My pride isn't worth 100,000 points. True Lalalal. Dororo's pride? You could buy that for 100 points. Indeed, LOL. Dororo stared at the dummy in front of him. With a sword in hand, he focused his concentration. I am a player on the 5th floor. No matter how remarkable Lee Suyuk was, he was just a player who had barely passed the 3rd floor. In contrast, Dororo had 2 years of experience on the 5th floor. What Lee Suyuk could do, he could do as well. Furthermore, the opponent wasn't a Thunder Knight but a mere dummy. I can do this. He temporarily forgot about the stream. The purpose of the stream was just to record evidence of the challenge's success. For now, succeeding in the challenge and securing 100,000 points was the priority. When his concentration peaked, "Challenge!" Shouting energetically, Dororo dashed quickly towards the dummy. Feather Step has been activated. Movement speed increases by 20% for 5 seconds. Air time increases by 100% for 5 seconds. Feather Step. It was one of the skills Dororo could use. While it didn't allow for stepping on air like Skywalk, it increased airtime and movement speed, making it a fairly high-tier skill. Thanks to this skill, Dororo could attempt the Lee Suyuk Challenge. With a longer airtime, this should be. Whoosh! Reaching the dummy, Dororo pushed off the ground with force and leaped high. Up to this point, things were good. At this rate, he could decapitate the dummy in one swift motion. However, I need to flip my body. The difficulty spiked when he tried to flip his speeding body upside down. Pointing his feet towards the sky wasn't easy. No, flipping the body wasn't the only problem. The balance wavered. His inverted vision made it difficult to see the target properly. Moreover, swinging the sword with maximum force from such a position was challenging. In the end, his steps got tangled. Crack. Dororo's sword cut off not the neck but the top of the dummy's head. Thud. Failing to maintain balance due to the forceful swing, Dororo fell to the ground, unable to land properly. Ugh dash. Dororo grimaced in pain as he landed hard on his backside. Is he doing slapstick comedy? Lalalol. Fail like Dororo. The viewers mocked him, the consequence of his failure. The moment he failed to cut off the dummy's neck, the challenge was over. He only had one chance. Feather Step could only be used once per day. Though he could try again without the skill. This is insane. Dororo didn't have the nerve to do that. How did he do it? Asterisk. If it were just about cutting, anyone could do it. But cutting precisely from an inverted position after a leap, and then landing properly was a different story. Occasionally, someone would appear who could cut the dummy's neck while inverted. The issue was the landing. How are you supposed to land from this? I can flip, but landing is the problem. Guys, landing on your head counts, doesn't it? Come on. Oh, no recognition. Many streamers attempted it, but no one succeeded. Even if they managed to cut the dummy's neck accurately, landing was the problem. It wasn't a matter of having enough stats. This was more like a stunt, unrelated to stats. Finally, they reached one conclusion. You can't do this without Skywalk. Is Nimble Thief's footwear a good item? That's Blue Eye's relic, right? If I had that, I could do it too. The Nimble Thief's footwear. And the skill embedded in that item, Skywalk. They concluded that without that skill, the challenge couldn't be completed. And at that moment, Lee Soo-yuk has started streaming, asterisk. What's with the sudden Lee Soo-yuk stream? 2 streams in one day? Rare indeed.
Suhai.
The unexpected stream delighted the viewers. By now, many regular viewers eagerly awaited Soo-yuk's streams. Moreover, Lee Soo-yuk attempts the Lee Soo-yuk challenge. P.S. Barefoot. The stream title was incredibly intriguing. After Falcon Eye's stream, the Lee Soo-yuk challenge spread rapidly. Now, Lee Soo-yuk himself was attempting the challenge. Without the nimble thief's footwear. Barefoot. Suhai. Hello, everyone. With a simple greeting, the stream began. This stream will be short. I need to start challenging the 4th floor again from tomorrow. Still good. At least we get to see this. The title is super interesting. Soo-yuk then showed where he was. I'll be challenging the level 5 of the virtual trial grounds. This challenge seems to be trending here these days. Trending for just 2 days now. It spread quickly though. But everyone was doing it on level 1. The practice virtual trial grounds have different levels of difficulty for the dummies. From the level 1 dummies that just stand still, to the sturdier and faster moving ones. Soo-yuk was challenging the 5th level dummies, which could move faster than most players in the lower floors. Who can't hit a stationary target? That's no fun. Oh, look at the cockiness lol. They couldn't even do that though. Anhyang had recommended this content. Even without the donations, it would make for a great video, wouldn't it? Of course, that's if you succeed. She seemed to be suggesting what she herself wanted to see. That's why her ideas are better. Anhyang was Soo-yuk's best fan. She often boasted about being his fan for a long time, and both her tone and expression showed just how deep her fandom was. Because of this, she could come up with content ideas that the audience wanted to see. She was a fan herself, after all. This content is a kind of fan service. Recalling Anhyang's words before starting the stream. No need to give missions today. Soo-yuk spoke in a different manner than usual. Yes, today's stream wasn't about earning points through missions. What he was about to show briefly was, because I'm going to succeed anyway. This is Lee Soo-yuk. It was a kind of showmanship to demonstrate just that.